Please take your seat. The show is about to begin.
Presented by Front Yard Fantasy. I'm your host, Simon. Joined as always by my wildly handsome co-host, John Luke Garofalo. Our friend Coop with us, aka Coop A. Fiasco. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my super energetic and always handsome, super goateed co-host, John Luke Garofalo. What's up, JL?
I hate that you said super goateed. I never want to be described as super goateed. That is the worst description.
It's too late. You're super goateed right now, JL. Compared to your normal goatee level, I would call this super. You're shaving today?
I'm so sick of it.
But you look so handsome.
You know what? Stupid. Here, I look like my dad.
Let's compromise, JL. Because
no.
I want to see where this beard goes. Like I understand your comfort's important, but like I'm curious because so far you're rocking it. You look like you play professional baseball. Like you're looking like the kids that bullied the weird kids in high school from the parking lot by the baseball field before practice started. Right? Like the kids in the parking lot who mocked you if your car wasn't cool enough as you drove into high school.
Yeah,
like,
what is that?
Sitting there.
As in Yukon XL? What a dork.
They're all pretending. It's a bunch of 16-year-olds pretending that they like the dip that the upperclassmen made them put in their lip. And they
just keep vomiting because they accidentally swallow it. They don't know why they keep vomiting. They think that's part of the experience.
If baseball was my passion, I would have quit in high school with the kids at my school that played baseball. Sorry if there's any Hillgrove baseball players listening.
Probably
but,
is.
Probably is. I say that, and like my high school best friend played baseball. He was killing it.
Screw that guy.
Yeah, screw that guy. What are we talking about here again?
Goatees.
Football and goatees. Okay, the compromise, JL. That's what we were talking about. Shave the neck, and I bet it gets instantly more comfortable.
I don't know
shave
how.
the neck. Yes, JL, right there where your neck like becomes your chin, like that crease, just shave it from there down. There's a natural stop. You can just go up against it and it'll stop it for you.
Like a little ceiling?
Like a little, exactly. You got a little ceiling built in. Yeah, that's perfect, JL. We got Maria in the chat saying, good morning, FYFers. Good morning, Maria. Glad to have you in here. And Tommy in the BSN chat saying, yo, ready, set, go. Mixing it up a little bit. And he said, looking manly, JL. Looking manly. A little bit of extra masculinity on your face these days.
I hate it.
Guys, we are about to get into our first segment. You guys know what it is. It's called BYOB, Bring Your Own Breakfast. JL and I are bringing topics that we want to talk about. Some football related, some non-football related, just things we got to get off our chest, things we need some other opinions on. JL, I got the first one. There's a couple things on this I want to talk about. But the first college football playoff rankings were released yesterday. So we had our first college football playoff rankings. First and foremost, let's get it out of the way. Clemson's sitting at number 4, currently in the playoffs. Committee saying if Clemson wins the ACC, they're going to make it. But what I really wanted to talk about was LSU at number 10. So LSU is currently sitting at number 10 on this list. They've got 2 losses, including a loss to Florida Atlantic in the first week of the season. People are freaking out that they're at number 2 or at number 10, just not able to handle it that they're ahead of some of these one-loss teams in this in these rankings.
Why do you think that is? So,
one, I think like looking at this, they're throwing away week 1 losses. Like they're saying, okay, week 1's weird. Like that's the only way this makes sense. Know what I mean? They're saying that loss to FAU was a fluke, just a complete fluke. We're ignoring it. Now we have a 1-loss LSU team. They belong in the top 10. But I saw some like conspiracy theories yesterday on Reddit. Okay. People were like, and on Twitter, people were going, the only reason they did this was to boost Alabama's resume. Of course they're doing this. It's to boost Alabama's resume. They would do this the weekend before they play Alabama. And like, at first I was like, yeah, like of course they're doing this to boost Alabama's resume, right? Like, yeah, it's all about ratings. They're doing this just for Alabama. The committee loves Alabama. It's better for the committee when Alabama's in. But then I started looking at it,
You went just straight into mob mentality.
Yeah, I went immediately into mob mentality. It was like, screw the committee. They're out to get us. Like it was
it's all
exactly
for
like,
Alabama. It all leads back to Saban.
It takes me about 5 seconds to get turned against Alabama, I think. Like exactly like, oh, and it's right after Halloween. I know Saban had a hand in this.
It's just like, was it from Always Sunny? Where the guy's just like in front of the yarn board, just like,
exactly. Yeah, I'm Charlie from It's Always Sunny, and I'm buying it immediately. But then I started thinking about it, and what purpose does Alabama need a resume boost for? They're currently winning their side of the conference in the SEC. Like, it's not like Alabama needs help making it to the SEC championship game. If they win out, they're in the SEC championship game. And then in order to make the playoff, they just have to beat whoever's in the SEC championship game, right? They're going to have to beat either Tennessee or Georgia, the two teams from the SEC ranked ahead of them. And they have they control their own destiny. Why do they need a resume booster? Unless people are saying this is a way for the committee to try to squeeze in a 2-loss non-champion Alabama team. Like, a 2-loss non-champion isn't making it into the college football playoff unless chaos happens. Yeah. So what's up with like this conspiracy theory? Just doesn't make sense. It would be boosting Alabama's resume just for the hell of it, because they don't need it. Like, it doesn't matter if LSU's ranked or not, because if they win their division and then win the conference with a win over Alabama or Georgia or Tennessee or Georgia, they're in the playoffs. They just are. Like, there's no need for a resume boost. So I got out of the mob, pulled myself away, but I don't think they're going to listen to reason.
That's pretty crazy. Do you think that you think Alabama I think makes it, Clemson makes it? Like, give me your top 4 prediction right now for college playoffs.
Man, it's tough because, like, I agree with you. Clemson is through the tough part of their schedule. And if they win out, hell, even if they're a 1-loss ACC champ, I think they're in. They've got an easy path. I don't think they're the best team in the country this year. I think they'll probably lose in the semifinals, but I think Clemson makes it. Now, the other ones,
I agree with you on that. I don't think they're complete enough to win this year.
No, they just can't do it. But the other teams, like, even though I think they're better, they're harder to decide because they have to go through each other to get there, right? Tennessee and Georgia are number 1 and 3 right now. They play each other this upcoming weekend. One of them's probably going to have to make it to the SEC championship game to face off against Alabama. And I guess Alabama's still in the running, right? Like, we could potentially get 2 of these teams in there. I'll go UGA. I think they make it back this year. Then it comes down to who's going to win between Ohio State and Michigan, and I will take Ohio State. So then we've got Georgia, UGA, Ohio State, and then I don't know who gets that last spot. Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State. Man. You know what? I'll take a 1-loss Tennessee, 2 SEC teams, a 1-loss Tennessee non-P5 champion as that 4th spot. So I think we're going to see 2 SEC teams in there again, Georgia and Tennessee. Georgia wins the SEC. That's Tennessee's only loss. Then Clemson and Ohio State. Ohio State beat Michigan to get in there.
You think Ohio State beats Clemson?
Well, I just hope we don't play Ohio State in the first round. I hope either Tennessee or Georgia gets to beat Clemson. I don't want to deal with my Ohio State family members.
Yeah, my friend Pete will be insufferable if we lose to them again this year. So, hope he's listening.
Tommy said the Crimson Hide. The Crimson Hide. What did I see yesterday? I saw this TikTok where it was like 2 people just running through, and they ran through church, and it was like what church is like in Alabama. And they walked in, and they said, "Roll Christ." As they walked in, roll Christ.
Roll what?
Roll Christ.
Roll Christ. Roll Christ.
That's how people in Alabama greet each other at church.
Roll Christ.
Roll Christ. We got Dennis in the chat, JL. He said he needs help with a streaming DST. Please consider matchups and injuries. Okay? That's what he wants. Make sure we consider matchups and injuries. Kansas City is going against Tennessee. Cincinnati's going against Carolina. Indianapolis up against New England. And then Miami playing Chicago this weekend. JL, who would you be picking up to play?
It was KC, Cincinnati, Indianapolis.
KC, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and there was one other team in there as well. Miami going up against Chicago this week.
I think I would go Cincinnati. Cincinnati Bengals going against Carolina. PJ Walker has been very good, but his matchups have not been that difficult. I think that the Bengals figure him out this week. I think they shut down this Carolina offense.
Man, but that Bengals secondary did not look good when they were on the field against the Browns. Like it just looked pretty rough. That being said, I don't disagree with what you're saying. And the Bengals do play the Steelers again next week, right? So that's a defense you could possibly play 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to go with Kansas City.
You all right?
Yeah, I like the Kansas City matchup against Tennessee, especially if Malik Willis is starting. Like Malik Willis had like 50 passing yards or 55 passing yards. It was preposterous. And I don't think Kansas City is going to let Derrick Henry run on them for 200 plus yards and 2 touchdowns. So I'll go Kansas City. And then next week, good news, they got the Jaguars. So you can just keep on rolling with Kansas City.
I don't know if I'm playing Kansas City against the Jaguars. Kansas City's secondary hasn't been that good. Even though I think they got Kendall Fuller, which is my guy. Went to my high school.
Hey, did you beat him in a sit-ups contest too?
No, I never really hung out with him. He was a year younger than me. So I wasn't my crew.
Like me and Evan Ingram. The year below.
Oh, he's a year younger?
Yeah, he's a year younger.
I thought he was your year.
No, Kenyon Drake was my year, but Evan Ingram was a year younger over there. And the man who got traded yesterday, Bradley Chubb, went to my high school, a couple years younger as well, though.
Isn't he the one that was taking Kelly Bryant's towels a bunch of games?
Yes, he was.
College.
When he was at NC State. He just kept snagging his towel.
A little menace. Just kept pulling his towel.
I don't mind stuff like that. Know what I mean? Like stuff like harmless messing with your opponents is funny. Like that's part of the game. Like get in their head, snag their towel a bunch of times. There's no harm that's coming from that.
Whenever you see these like they talk about them fighting, and it always for some reason to me like comes off really silly because it really is like childish. Like I don't know if you saw it, but Jair Alexander after the game, reporters are asking like what Stephon Diggs said, like what they were talking about, and he's like, yeah, just walk past him. Was like, you little boy, you ain't gonna get me. And like that's started it all. It's him calling him like you little boy, and I'm like, why do you care if he calls
I
you a
am
boy?
a big boy.
I am a big boy.
I am
you dare call me a little boy.
How dare you? Were you a trash talker when you played sports?
No, I was always just like the good sport guy. Like I didn't care. I was just having fun. I was out there. I'd be like cracking jokes and stuff.
I wasn't a trash talker, but I was like in a hyper competitive headspace kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like
I got super competitive. Yeah.
Like I've gone back and watched videos of my high school wrestling, and there's like moments where I'm like, oh, that's embarrassing. Like where like we go out of bounds and I like jump in the air and like growl and then sprint back to the middle of the mat. And I'm like, what the hell? Like what kind of demon possessed me to act like that out on the mat?
I want to see these.
I'll have to see if my mom still has them somewhere. There's been a couple moves in between. So some of the videos might've been lost, but I'm acting like they're on VHS. I was in high school. It was like 2015. There were definitely like digital cameras. Like these are probably just on a phone somewhere. We don't have to like dig through storage to find these videotapes. I was like, yeah, maybe we can find them, but they might have gotten lost in the move.
Yeah, who knows? From VHS to CD to Blu-ray, it's just a lot.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking right there. We got Tommy in the chat saying I was like the worst type of gas, silent but deadly. You know what? I don't think that's the worst kind of gas. Like people always are like, the silent but deadly is the worst. No, because then you're only embarrassed of the smell and you have plausible deniability. Like loud and smelly is the worst.
It's definitely
like,
worse.
Loud and deadly, like then you're like
loud
double
and
embarrassed.
Deadly, yeah. There's no really redeeming qualities for loud and deadly.
Because then everyone looks at you when you do it. And then when they sniff it, everyone looks at you again.
Everyone's like, yeah, we know it's you. There's no one else who just loudly farted.
Oh, and Tommy was talking about his trash talk. I was confused for a second.
Me too. I had no idea. I was about to say that. I have no idea what he's talking about, but okay.
Just the thing that we mentioned 5 seconds prior is what Tommy's talking about.
We are like goldfish. We have no memories.
Yeah, not until 7 a.m. do I have a memory. Craig said the Crimson, let's ride.
Let's ride.
Let's ride. Also, Craig in here letting us know, guys, I may have developed a dairy intolerance. If I have, I don't know what I'm going to do.
A what tolerance?
A dairy intolerance. Craig, I know what you're going to do if you developed a dairy intolerance.
What is that? What's that word you're saying?
Dairy intolerance.
Dairy intolerance. I thought you were saying, I thought Darien tolerance. And I was like, what the heck is a Darien tolerance?
Well, some people just can't handle being around people named Darian.
Darian. Yeah, screw you, Darian.
But I have a Darian tolerance. So I
see.
can spend so much time around people named Darian.
That's a superpower.
Yeah, 100%.
Have you ever met a single person named Darian?
No, but I've met one that's in a relationship.
Oh, okay.
Never met a single Darian, though.
Tim.
Yeah.
That's a Tim answer.
Maybe one day I'll be single. I'll let you know if I can ever say yes to that. But Craig, truly, I hope you did not develop a Darian tolerance. That's going to be rough sledding for you, especially doesn't Craig live in Wisconsin? Like that's a cheese capital of the world. You gotta be able to consume your dairy up there. Got to. That's sorry, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to bring up another topic here. Was Dan Campbell thinks DeAndre Swift got too many carries versus the Dolphins. Quote, he's not back. Not back, man. They left out the man.
What a funny way to say that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not back. Well, he was. He's back, just not at full speed. Like he was in that game. He was relevant. He was there.
Here's the full quote. We probably gave Swift one too many carries, Campbell said. We love Swift. Glad he's out there, but he's not back. He's given us what he has, but it's just not, And so maybe give another one of those carries to Jamaal. That got funnier the more of the quote we got. Give another one of those carries to Jamaal.
I got lost in the words there at some point. You were like, and then, okay, give some more Jamaal Williams. Like, I just feel like that's how that quote went. Like, yeah, well, you see, if it wasn't for, he's coming back, Jamaal.
Like, you just described how your tired brain heard me talking. That's all that was.
Did I nail it?
Yeah, you nailed it.
It's exactly what you said.
It is.
No, this is this is concerning if you're a DeAndre Swift manager, right? Like, we were assuming whenever the team said he was back, that he was back. He was ready to go. He's the kind of player that you just play. But if he's not back, Jill, do you think this is Dan Campbell saying we're not going to play him, or we're just going to give Jamaal Williams more work? Because that's what it sounds like to me. Jamal's just going to be more involved. Swift might get a little bit more of a break.
Honestly, I think this is just Dan Campbell being upfront and being like, hey, this is like, he's not fully, we're going to limit him a bit. And I expect that to be true.
Yeah, that checks out. I want him to have 40 carries a game, though, as a fantasy manager. But
of course,
if you're a Jamaal Williams manager, this is probably encouraging news, right? Like, Jamaal Williams is going to stay involved in this offense, even with DeAndre Swift back. They're trying to protect DeAndre Swift, and Jamaal Williams is healthy.
For the first time, actually, no, I don't know what I was saying there. Last year, I said, I think it was like week 4 or week 5. I was like, Jamaal Williams is going to end up being like a piece on a lot of fantasy championship teams because he looks so good. Maybe that's this year. Maybe I was just a year too early on that.
Please. Yesterday, Jeff, for like 5 seconds, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be Myles Gaskin again, isn't it? Myles Gaskin is going to be fantasy relevant at the end of this year. He's going to be the one who wins championships. And then thank God Jeff Wilson ended up over there, and I didn't have to worry about Myles Gaskin anymore. Jamaal Williams, I'm all about it, man. If he's the player that at the end of the year we're talking about, like he was the one on the most championship rosters, I could hardly pick a person in the NFL that I like more to be celebrated. You know what I mean?
Such a pleasant person, yeah.
He's so pleasant. Like, every time he was on the television for Hard Knocks, every TikTok I've seen with him in it, I just enjoy this man more. Like I always talk about Darren Waller's smile, but Jamaal Williams' smile is also just infectious. Like it's more like
I'm so glad that Dan Campbell like loves him as much as I love him. Maybe more. Like, I'm just glad that Dan Campbell is like work, because I could see a path where Jamaal Williams just like faded off into obscurity.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it happens to running backs all the time, right? Like, it's not hard for a running back to fade into obscurity. I bring him up way too often, but it's because it's the one that broke my heart the most. Kerryon Johnson is a running back that just kind of faded into obscurity. We see it all. Royce Freeman, we don't see him kind of killing it anymore.
Yeah.
I think we thought Rashad Penny might have been going that way for a little while, but then he started killing it. Like, whenever he's healthy, he's killing it. So he escaped that trap.
Yeah.
He escaped that trap. Also, Jail, with the Lions, we're mentioning Dan Campbell. You and I both Dan Campbell fans, and I think most people, maybe besides Other NFC North fans are Dan Campbell fans as well, but he is 1-6. Though I do think the Lions are expecting a full-on rebuild, like not a good season. But at what point, like Dan Campbell's a player's coach, they love him. The fans love him. At what point do they start putting like some heat on this seat? Is it this season? Does he have to reach a certain threshold of wins this season? Does he get this whole year just kind of like do your thing? Is it next year? Is it the year after? Like, I'm just curious how long you think
this is year 2 of Dan Campbell, right?
Yeah.
It's the second season of Dan Campbell. I don't think we see heat until at least next season. This was a team that was in a terrible spot when Matt Patricia left. They were not in a good spot, and a rebuild like this is going to take time. They didn't have a ton of capital. They've been slowly piecing it together, and I feel like a lot of the positive attention for Dan Campbell and Lions is going to keep his seat nice and cold.
Yeah, I agree with you. I look at the numbers, right? 3-13 last year. What happens if he goes 1-16 this year, right? And it just looks pretty rough. I agree. I think they get he gets another shot at it next year, but I think if next year they've got 3 or fewer wins again, his seat might start getting a little bit high. But it seems like they're doing the right things, right? Do you believe in Dan Campbell, or do you just want to believe in Dan Campbell?
I believe in it. I watched Hard Knocks, so I'm clearly an expert in Dan Campbell, all things Dan Campbell. Yeah, and this Lions organization. No, but I've studied extensively, leadership and psychology and cultural aspect, like building cultures. And he's a smart dude. He's an intelligent dude, and it's not easy to do what he's doing. So say what you want about the team that he has, but it's not as simple as, hey, this coach isn't good enough to completely turn the team around in one season or not. Like, there's so many other factors here. Dan Campbell, he is making the right moves. A lot of the moves he's made in terms of his team long-term are good, right? Aiden Hutchinson, Penei Sewell, like, he's been making good moves. This team will be better for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have to agree with you on that one. Dale, did you see Brandin Cook's Cryptic tweet yesterday? It was a beautiful one. It was pretty good. He said, "Don't take a man's kindness for granted. Cover for the lies for too long. Those days are done. Cross the line with playing with my career." Brandin Cooks.
Brandin Cooks. Wow, that is some heat.
That's some heat, right?
Some subtweet heat.
That's some wide receiver heat. What is he saying here? Do you think he's not going to play for the Texans? Is he not suiting up?
I don't know. I could see him doing that, but I didn't realize that it was deteriorating this quickly. I can't see it faring well for him in his career if he does hold out.
Yeah,
I don't know that he has much leverage.
That dude needs to ball out and then just go somewhere else, right? Like, ball out this year, go somewhere else. But I get it if he doesn't want to play. We don't know the whole story with what's going on with the Texans, and we also have recent evidence that maybe this Texans franchise isn't run in the player's best interest, right? That or that this Texans organization isn't run well, like that they have flaws in the way they're doing it. So maybe he's got real frustrations with this Texans organization. I know plenty of other people do. So that could be real.
But I don't know how their new leadership is. Not ownership. It's just was passed down because the old owner passed away. So I don't know how they're doing. I wasn't a big fan of the older guy. I forget his name for some reason right now. But
Easterby, am I remembering that properly, or am I just pulling that name out of nowhere? He may be the owner of a different team. He was
McNair. I forget it's Cal McNair.
There we go. Easterby was their vice president of football operations. I don't know why that one came to mind.
He made the prisoners running the prison comment a couple years ago, and
I could not. That was one of the things where you read it and like your jaw dropped. You were like, "Excuse me,
like, how stupid are you?"
Yeah, I remember DeAndre Hopkins just going off on him for that. DeAndre Hopkins was not eating that. He was
Cal McNair's the owner now, so Cal McNair's the son.
Okay. Good. I'm glad it's in fully different ownership now. Yeah. No, if Brandin Cooks doesn't play, it's not in his best interest. I just love a good wide receiver tweet. Like it's art every single time, and I'm glad Brandin Cooks got in on that a little bit. But does this worry you for his fantasy output, Jale? Like if you're a Brandin Cooks manager, are you worried rest of season?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I was already worried. I'm not a Brandin Cooks manager. I couldn't bring myself to draft him anywhere. Just for some reason, I have some weird Brandin Cooks like blinders on. He's always drafted too high, in my opinion. Even though I know it's probably the opposite. Yeah, I would be worried.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Albert in here. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Albert.
What's up, Albert? And Jay said, I'm going to use this at church this Sunday. I'm not sure which part you're talking about. Oh, but I think Jay's behind again, and he's hearing some Roll Christ. I think he's about 10 minutes behind over there.
Maria is asking who she should drop in our Megan Invitational League. So this is this is a super flex league. You start 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. There are 2 flex spots. Simon, you were in this league, I believe, or
yeah.
No?
I mean, no. Don't even bother looking at my team.
Your team real bad?
There's not a team in there with my name.
All right, so I'm gonna name some names on. She's got a ton of buys this week, so she has to drop somebody. I'm gonna name some names, Simon. You tell me who she should drop. Jacoby Brissett, super flex.
Jacoby Brissett. Does she have 2 other quarterbacks?
Oh, sorry. I should say more than one name, shouldn't I? She's got Josh Allen, Dak Prescott. And then Jacoby Brissett is her third. Running backs, she's got Javonte Williams, Devin Singletary, James Conner, Najee Harris, Tony Pollard. And that's it. And then wide receivers, she got. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead. Well, let's hear the rest of the names just so I'm making sure. Only the droppable ones.
Wide receivers, she's got Claypool, Smith-Schuster, KJ Osborne, and Devontae Parker, and Jerry Jeudy, who is on bye this week. And then tight end, she's got Dawson Knox and Daniel Bellinger. On bye this week.
Are those the only 2 tight ends she has, or does she have another tight end in the starting spot?
Nope, just Dawson Knox is the starter.
I don't know if Bellinger's worth holding on to through his bye. Like, I just don't know if there's enough value in Bellinger in redraft to hold on to him through his bye. I like him, but I might just drop him. The other one is Jacoby Brissett. The Browns are on bye this week, and then week 10, and then all of a sudden it's almost time for Deshaun Watson to start, right? Like, you're going to get 2 more games out of Jacoby Brissett. So unless you're playing defense, like holding him on your roster, you can go ahead and drop him.
Yeah.
When is the Cowboys
right. Josh Allen's already had his spot. It's this week.
This week?
Yeah.
The Cowboys bye is this week. Well, then she can't drop Jacoby Brissett because she has to start Jacoby Brissett this week.
Jacoby Brissett's also on bye this week. Then drop Jacoby. That's the move, right? That's the move. Yeah. Drop Jacoby, drop Bellinger, pick up some guys to fill in.
I'm with you. I think that's what you got to do.
Yeah. Good question.
Jail, yesterday, I also – excuse me. Or did you see yesterday that Trent Dilfer had some words on Justin Fields and this and Mr. Zach Wilson? He said Justin Fields is a franchise QB who needs some explosive weapons. As for Zach Wilson, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but his flaws have been amplified in the NFL. I studied him for the draft. All anybody wanted to talk about was his talent, but he doesn't play QB very well. So,
damn, bro.
Just saying, like that was almost ruder than if he just said, like, this dude sucks. He was like, yeah, he's got some talent. Like, I covered him. I know what he can do. He's just not very good. Like that. That's worse than someone just saying, like, this dude sucks.
Yeah, that is brutal, man. That is brutal. You think he's got some merit? Do you think Zach Wilson sucks?
I mean, Zach Wilson hasn't looked good, has he? Like I feel like I'm not even seeing like flashes from him that make me think, oh, this quarterback could be good, right? I just haven't seen enough to say, okay, like this guy can be a franchise quarterback. Justin Fields, I've seen those flashes. Trevor Lawrence, I've seen those flashes. Hell, Mac Jones, I've seen those flashes, right? Like we've seen it. Davis Mills has even shown us pieces of it. Not this year. So maybe I take Davis Mills out of that category. But Zach Wilson, besides some of the games last year with Elijah Moore, like his connection with Elijah Moore last year, which has just completely evaporated into thin air this year, apparently. I don't see it. Like, I don't see him having that success. What about you?
Yeah, I believe in Robert Saleh. I think that he can I think he's been able to improve this Jets team more so than what we've seen in the past. I wasn't the biggest Zach Wilson guy when he was coming out of college. I didn't think that he necessarily was locked in at that number 2 spot in his his class, but I think he'll be fine. I think he's better than Sam Darnold. I don't think he'll be a Sam Darnold, but he's got to develop.
Also, Joe, we completely forgot that Daniel Bellinger has a broken eye socket and could potentially be out the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So that's another reason to drop him.
Yeah.
Broken eye socket. God.
How?
Do you think that hurts to like blink?
Yeah, I think it hurts to blink.
Oh my God. I would just live like this until my eye healed. Just both eyes closed. I'm not doing the one eye open thing. It'll disorient me. Where's my depth perception then?
Yeah, just go blind.
Just go blind. Have you ever done the experience Dialogue in the Dark? It's like a traveling exhibit that they set up in different places. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
So what it is it's an experience set up to simulate being blind. And all of the tour guides throughout it are legally blind. And it's an educational experience to learn about what it's like to go through different scenarios as a blind person. And so my dad and I were like, oh, like, let's go check this out. And so they put you in like this room, truly pitch black, like the darkest room I've ever been in my entire life. And they start with like a little mini game. We were like, think very much like the Halloween game where you reach your hand in and you're like, is that spaghetti? No, it's brains. But we were doing it with like real objects. They weren't tricking us into grabbing raw spaghetti or cooked spaghetti.
Raw spaghetti.
But then you go through this whole tour where like you go to a grocery store that they have set up and you have to like navigate the grocery store. Then you go to like a park. Then you have to cross a busy road. And then you have to like get on a boat. And then you go to a restaurant and you have to like pay for food and drink. And it was like a 2-hour tour. And by the end of it, like, God, that is so hard. Like the level of respect earned by the end of that was just absolutely insane. Like just not seeing for 2 hours. I was ready to like knock a wall down to get out of there. Like having to walk, like it was cool for 30 minutes. You're like, oh, this is cool. Like what a cool learning experience. And then the next hour and a half was like, save me. Like, please save me.
Kill me.
My dad, his whole life is music. Like that's the thing he loves most in the whole world. So the like, would you rather like lose your sight or lose your hearing? He had always said hearing or sight because he loves his music so much. But we left that. He was like, I can't do it. Like I couldn't do
music.
It. I just couldn't do it. But the other cool part is they like you don't see your tour guide until the very end. And your tour guide is legally blind. So they're able to guide you through that just using the skills that they use every day. And then at the very end, you get to like meet your tour guide, being able to see them in person. And that's cool to like kind of get to know someone for 2 or 3 hours before you even get to see them, right? Like, but you're getting to know them. And like, whether you like it or not, you're developing this sort of mental picture of what you think this person looks like who this person is. You're creating this
kind of like radio.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden at the end, you meet them, image shattered, different person, reality check.
Or podcasts, I guess, are the same.
Yeah, podcast, radio. Yeah, there's certain people I never want to look up what they look like. I've just heard their voice so much.
We got some questions here in the chat.
Let's do it.
Daniel in here saying, what would you guys do? 10-team, half PPR, home league. QBs are Dak. Running backs are Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Walker, Etienne, and Pierce. Nice. Wide receivers are Diggs, Lambs, Waddle, DJ Moore. Tight ends are Taysom Hill, Higbee, Kelsey/Andrews. Owners not interested in selling. Can't get them to budge. I think start 3 wide receivers, 2 running back, 1 flex.
So here's what I'm doing if I'm you. I'm just winning my league. This team is so you have Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker, Etienne, and Dameon Pierce. Like your running backs are so solid. Then at wide receiver, you're starting Diggs, Lamb, and Waddle. DJ Moore probably on your bench because you start 3 of those running backs. Like you probably plug one of those running backs into your flex spot. And then your tight end spot's a little bit weaker, right? Like you're not thrilled with that, but you can throw Taysom Hill in for the home run every week. Your team is so good elsewhere that it's okay if Taysom Hill lays you a 2-point game because he can also just win the week for you. He can lay you a 30-point game any given week. I don't think there's any moves you need to make. Like truly, this is just a great team, Daniel.
Yeah. So in terms of like moves I would make, I would try and see it's surprising they wouldn't give up Kelsey or Andrews for a top tier running back, one of your top tier running backs. And I'd be interested in trading Swift or Pierce. I think both of those guys are probably tradable. But if they're not willing to do that, totally understand. Maybe go for one of those second rate. Maybe it's not Kelsey or Andrews. Go for one of those, second rate tight ends just to upgrade from Hill and Higbee here. And then in terms of starting them, I would also try and trade DJ Moore if I could. If you can sell him off this high, I would try and do that.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I don't mind that move either. We got Dustin in the chat. What's up, Dustin? Welcome in.
Dustin?
Glad to have you here, my man. Joe, you got another BYOB topic for us?
I do. Sorry, I just got distracted here. So one thing I saw, Bill Belichick. This is Bill Belichick on Ramondre Stevenson. This came from Alex Barth on Twitter. Mondre just keeps getting better every day. He's one of the guys I've coached that just shows continuous improvement almost every day he walks into the building in every phase of the game. Mondre, first of all, love the nickname Bill Belichick, the little pet name he's got. Ramondre Stevenson, but good, like very, very high praise from Bill Belichick on Ramondre Stevenson. What do you think about this, Simon?
I thought you were still doing the quote whenever you said Mondre. Oh, I like that nickname that he's got for him. Like, I thought that was still part of the quote, and I was waiting for the quote to end. And then you said Bill Belichick, and I was like, did he talk about himself in the third person? No, he did not. No, that's great news. I still have trust issues with the New England running backs. Like, it seems like every year Bill Belichick just likes to mess with us, right? Like, you start thinking you can trust one guy, and then bam, James White gets 17 carries and 14 targets. Like, you start thinking you can trust people. Bam, it's a Rex Burkhead week. Like here comes Burkhead. Sorry, Damian Harris managers. He goes Emeril Agassi on us and just bam, a little bit of this running back, a little bit of this running back. Bam.
We like that way too much.
I like that way too much. Why couldn't I have done an Emeril Agassi impersonation whenever we did it? You had to give me
his last name, Agassi.
Maybe I'm saying it wrong. I'm not a chef.
I just always hear people say Emerald.
Emerald?
Yeah, I don't know many other emeralds, I guess.
In the big green letters?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think he inspired his name off of the Emerald City? Like his branding? Not his name. That was but the branding, like the Emerald City from the Wizard of Oz, because it has similar vibes. And I haven't looked enough into Emerald to know if this is the same thing.
Maybe.
Okay, back to Ramondre Stevenson instead of an Emerald aside. I think, when's the last time you talked about Emerald?
10 years ago.
Right? I was just thinking like, man, that's a blast from the past. Now, this seems like this is the most predictable backfield that the Patriots have had in recent memory. Like since I've been a hardcore fantasy player, like someone who like pays attention every day to this stuff. I feel like it's always been the Patriots backfield is one to kind of avoid because we're unsure what to do. It feels pretty clear right now. I don't know if you feel the same way or if I'm just getting hoodwinked, if I'm getting tricked.
Yeah, I mean, Rodgers Stevenson's stock is rising. This is very promising to see, and we'll see. I mean, Damian Harris is older. I don't know when his contract is up. Is this his last year?
I do not know. I would have to look that up.
Okay. We got one more question here from Brian. It said, Debo, Najee, Allen Lazard for Zeke, Pittman, and McLaurin. Would you do it? So Debo Samuel, Najee Harris, Allen Lazard for Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Pittman, and Terry McLaurin.
Debo, Najee, and Lazard for Zeke, Pittman, and McLaurin.
I would do that trade. Oh, wait, no, sorry. I want the Debo, Najee, Lazard side.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm looking at this, and I want the Debo, Najee, Lazard side as well. I mean, Pittman, unfortunately, has Sam Ehlinger throwing him the ball for the time being. In best case scenario, Matt Ryan comes back. But I like Pittman. McLaurin, a good asset as well. But again, I don't like that offense very much. Lazard is the top guy for Aaron Rodgers. Like, I want that player on my team. Debo Samuel's Debo Samuel. Like, he's going to be heavily involved in this offense. And I like Christian McCaffrey being there for Debo, right? One, hopefully it should keep him out of the running game. I know we like that for fantasy points, but Debo should stay healthy a little bit easier now with CMC in that offense. And dude had over 1,400 receiving yards last year on top of the rushing yards. So we don't need to worry about his production as a receiver without that rushing work. I'm on the Debo, Najee, Lazard side.
Yeah, me as well.
That's where I'm going. Guys, coming up, yesterday was the trade deadline, so we have a lot of trade news to talk through. We're going to get through that, and then we're going to play some hypothetically a little bit later today as well. And trade daddy Alex Korff, a.k.a. Peaked in High School, is joining the show at 9 a.m. today, so make sure you're hanging around until then. And at the end of this show, we've got our friend, former NFL running back Ahman Green, coming on the show later today as well. Get hyped for that. You're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network.
Better Sports Live with Rick Kamla. That's 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific on Better Sports Network.
Andy Reid is the best current coach in the NFL. He's better than Belichick. Belichick has lost his way. He's better than Tomlin. He's better than Harbaugh. He's better than Shanahan. He's better than McCarthy down in Dallas. He's better than all of the gangster NFL coaches right now. Sean McDermott up in Buffalo, he's better than all these guys. Andy Reid is the greatest gangster that we have at head coach in the NFL right now. And I understand that you're saying, well, Belichick is the GOAT, Cam. How can that be true? Now you're bringing up old stuff. Bill Belichick can't draft anymore, okay? Talk to me. Nick Chubb, Sony Michel. Talk to me. DK Metcalf, Debo Samuel versus N'Keal Harry. Okay, talk to me. This dude has lost his way. Remember the year when he should have bottomed out and just tanked, but he couldn't, and he went and got Cam Newton, and they were a mediocre team, right? He's lost his way. And not that he can't coach up a good defense and that kind of thing, but overall, he's lost his way. Andy Reid's an absolute badass. They draft great. He's a great coach, makes the right decisions, when to go for it, when to kick, when to punt. The guy's the man.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
I hate the stupid unsportsmanlike conduct. As long as you're not disrespectful to the opponent, you should be allowed to celebrate.
How I used to say it, and to bring up, because now basketball's starting, I'm going to bring up personal.
Oh, dude, it's even worse than basketball, isn't it?
So Dikembe Mutombo, who used to get teed up in the 2000s, in the 90s, they didn't give a crap. 2000s, though, when they tightened up the rules, they used to tee him up more when he did the Dikembe finger wag. But they wouldn't tee him up if he did it to the crowd instead of looking at, like, Eton Thomas, like one time I remember, and doing it right to him, or when his back was turned, doing it right to him. If he did it to the crowd, they would never call it. And so that makes me wonder if these players, while, yeah, they want to talk a little smack, maybe they should flex towards the crowd than at the player who they're standing over.
I guess.
I know it's soft, man.
It is soft.
Because you know what?
Like we're gonna give 15 yards for that,
bro. They think that, you know, want to know why they're paranoid? They think that's gonna turn into a fight.
See, I disagree with that. That's not going to start a fight.
I agree with you. They don't agree with
us.
It's
one thing, okay, if you spit in someone's face or say something derogatory, like about their family or something,
right,
yeah, that can incite it. But if you're just like, yeah, I made that play, what? You know what I mean? Like, again, they know the rules. You got to know you're going to get flagged. You have to have discipline. But, like, I don't know. I have no problem with celebration as long as it's not disrespectful.
What's disrespectful? You know,
it's interpretation, and that's my problem. Watch, it's going to cost someone in a big playoff game, and that's when people are going to go crazy. There'll be a third down play. Someone makes a pass breakup, and they're in someone's face. They're going to throw a flag. It'll extend the drive. That team scores, wins the playoff game because of it. You need something drastic for it to really leave an imprint, and I hope that doesn't happen to my team.
Better Sports Network is betting, fantasy, collectibles. It's sports talk done better.
Welcome back in, everyone, to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network. Yesterday was a big news day. The trade deadline hit at 4 p.m. Eastern, and NFL teams got busy with their trading, didn't they?
Busy. They got busy.
Oh, man, they got busy. They were going hard. That was, Jail, I feel like every year it's always like, this was the craziest blank that ever happened. What a crazy offseason. What a crazy week one. What a crazy year for fantasy. But tell me if I'm wrong. This seems like the craziest trade deadline in recent memory. Like the last day of the trade dedeadline. Am I mistaken?
It feels like
is it just recency bias, or is it truly like it seemed like an absurd last day before the trade deadline?
Yeah, this definitely feels way more transactions than in previous years. Maybe it is recency bias. Maybe we can get back checked on that. But I'm going with my anecdotal evidence here and saying, yeah, it is the craziest.
Like, not just the quantity, but the quality of player being traded as well, right? We saw some like blockbuster trades yesterday, like mid-season blockbuster trades. I'm excited to talk through some of these. Let's start up here at the top. Some of the smaller beans, but still fantasy relevant beans. Buffalo traded for running back Nyheim Hines. They sent Indianapolis running back Zach Moss and a 2023 conditional 5th round draft pick. So traded a conditional pick and their running back Zach Moss over to Buffalo for over to Indianapolis to receive running back Nyheim Hines. We knew Buffalo wanted a receiving back, like someone who could be that specialist in that game, right? It seemed like that was a need for them. They were trying to make it work with the backs on their roster, but I expect Nyheim Hines, like they gave up a conditional pick and a running back that they drafted. I expect them to use Nyheim Hines. Like, why would they make this trade if he wasn't going to have some relevancy in this offense?
Yeah, they clearly have a plan for him. It'll be interesting next time we have Sal Capaccio on to ask him about this move, because it's interesting. There's a lot of feels like a lot of blockbuster running back trades at the trade deadline this year, but this I wouldn't call a blockbuster.
No, this one's not a blockbuster. Absolutely not. But I think Nyheim Hines has some fantasy relevancy, maybe like RB3 range, but that's still a guy that you can roster. Like he should get enough receiving work here to be relevant, I feel like. Now Zach Moss on the other side. I see Hal in here asking already, is Zach Moss anything? JT hurt his ankle again. So Jail, do you have any interest in Zach Moss with JT banged up, or are you more interested in maybe the other back on that offense, Deion Jackson, or maybe they elevate Phillip Lindsay from the practice squad again? They used him earlier this year.
I am interested in Zach Moss. Zach Moss got used to, at one point in time, it was a split between Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. Now, Zach Moss, when he got the carries, he got the opportunity, he didn't look very good. He wasn't explosive. He was a plodding running back. And so I could see them leaning on him in the absence of Nyheim Hines and with Jonathan Taylor dealing with his injury. But I think his talent is somewhat limited here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe a little bit less optimism about interest in him for fantasy. I liked what we saw from Deion Jackson whenever Jonathan Taylor did miss time. And I haven't liked what I've seen from Zach Moss whenever he's got an opportunity there in Buffalo. So I'm probably, like, if I'm rostering one of those guys, it's probably Deion Jackson that I'm trying to pick up, not Zach Moss. But if you're in a deep league, he's worth a wait and see ad, like an Adam and see what this is about. Man, this feels like a reset almost on like some of the fantasy football season. Like now there's new play, like it's a mini off season until we see them on the field, because we're doing what we do in the off season. It's all speculation. We know nothing about what these players are going to be on their new teams besides just speculative, evidence-based assumptions, right?
Right.
The off season. We're back, baby.
I love it. It feels like Christmas time.
Dustin said Zach Moss is always my starting player in Weddle. I got to get back into the Weddle, Dustin. Add it to my routine. I do the Quirtle and the Wordle every day, but I got to get the Weddle in there.
As soon as we can share a screen, we'll start doing the Weddle on the show. That'd be fun.
We'll do it together.
Yeah,
oh man, but I'm gonna be honest, JL. I do not do well cooperating on those type of games. I'm gonna have to start practicing because I want to control it. I want to be in charge. I love those games. Word games are my jam. I guess that's a football game though.
It is.
We can work together. Okay, you convinced me. We can work together. Were you about to say something, JL?
It's going to get onto our next trade here. We got Jacksonville receiving Calvin Ridley with Atlanta. So they traded with Atlanta, got Calvin Ridley, gave up a 2023 conditional 5th-round draft pick and a 2024 conditional 2nd-round draft pick. This is a little bit surprising. I don't think anyone was expecting a Calvin Ridley deal to go down yesterday. Simon, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah. Yesterday we had Dustin and Dave on our show, like right as I was processing this on the Fantasy Football Game Show. Our friend Dynasty Dorks, and then Dustin down there in the chat, the D Unit 13, I learned is how his Twitter handle is pronounced. But we were talking a little bit about it, and I forget which one of them brought it up, but brought up that like the best part about this is the clarity that we're receiving on Calvin Ridley's situation going into next year, right? Like we don't have to wait 10 more months. And whenever they said that, I was like, you know what? Like at first I was just so confused. Like, what does this mean for Calvin Ridley? What does this mean for Trevor Lawrence? But then like bare minimum, at least we know now we have time to digest this. He's going to be on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is going to be his quarterback. And last time we saw Calvin Ridley on the field, he was an unbelievable athlete, like a top tier wide receiver in the NFL. I'm excited. I think Trevor Lawrence needs a wide receiver like this. I don't think Christian Kirk is a true one in an NFL offense. I don't think he's a true alpha. And Calvin Ridley, I think, is a true NFL wide receiver one for a team. This is good news for Trevor Lawrence. And good news for Calvin Ridley that he's on an NFL team and he's going to be playing next year. So maybe there was better landing spots, but I don't know how many teams where he walks in and he's immediately the one. That's what he's doing in Jacksonville, though. So I'm excited. What I don't know what to do with him, though, is like JL in a dynasty league. How are you valuing him? Is he like a wide receiver 2? I mean, talent-wise, he's probably like in the conversation for a wide receiver 1, but we haven't seen him play in over a year. after that suspension. Like, it'll have been a full year since we see him play. Time off from football is scary for these players coming back. Like, did they still have it? Did they practice during the offseason? Did they lose a step? But talent-wise, he's so good that he has to be, like, considered up there. It just seems like risk if you're going to take him on. I just don't know how to value him.
Yeah, he's still got time. He's not playing this season, so you can't. His value doesn't go immediately back to what it was. It's largely similar. It's maybe slightly better, depending on how you feel about this Jacksonville offense long term. I think it's positive for him. This is an uptick in value as far as I'm concerned, because it tells me that the Jacksonville Jaguars are making a move to build out this offense for the future, for next year. They're going to build this offense around Calvin Ridley as the wide receiver one with Trevor Lawrence, ETN, and I think that offense will be different next year.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing these quarterbacks kind of get their guy, right? Like these teams are trading for stud wide receivers for their young quarterbacks. The Eagles just did it this offseason, grabbing AJ Brown for Jalen Hurts after drafting Devonta Smith in the first round the year prior. It seems like the Jags and the Bears were a little late to this train on securing wide receivers for their guys, but they're trying to get in on the action now here at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
That was a move I wasn't expecting. Like of all the trades, I feel like we talked about a bunch of players potentially being traded, but I did not expect to see a Calvin Ridley trade yesterday. But it makes sense for Jacksonville. Why not?
Yeah. I see Brandin in the chat said, "Morning, y'all. It's Hawkins season." Yeah, I think that'll be the next one we talk about here. And Hal said, "When can Ridley be in the facility?" Do you know the answer to that, Simon?
I have no idea. We'll have to look that up. I do not know when Ridley's allowed in the facility.
That is a good question.
We'll see if we can find that for you.
I'm not sure.
Keith, let us know.
Yeah, Keith, go look quick.
Yeah, and Brendan alluded to it, but let's go ahead and talk about that trade. This is a big one for fantasy. The Minnesota Vikings traded tight end TJ Hawkinson, a 2023 fourth round pick, and a 2024 conditional fourth round pick to Detroit for a 2023, other way around. My brain got flip-flopped. Detroit traded all of those pieces to Minnesota for a 2023 second round draft pick and a 2024 third round draft pick.
This is a big trade, man. I wasn't expecting this one either.
This one came out of nowhere. I hadn't heard a single rumor about TJ Hawkinson getting moved, but there he is. In division trade to the Minnesota Vikings.
It's rare.
It is rare. And they're getting back a second and a third, giving up a fourth and a conditional fourth, plus their star young tight end and TJ Hawkinson.
What do you think is like the mindset of these two teams? In division, I feel like you have to have a reason that it's going to overcome that, helping out your division mate.
I think they know their role for the coming year or two. Know what I mean? I don't think the Lions are overly optimistic about their odds to win the division in the next 2 years. I don't think the Lions are sitting here thinking okay, the moves we're making right now are so that we are competitive this year or even next year, right? They're making moves to gather this draft capital to build a successful team. And in doing so, they were probably going to lose to the Vikings anyways. The Vikings look like a great team. The Vikings look like the team to beat in this division. The Lions weren't beating them anyways. Why not? Maybe you made them a little bit better in the short term, but you're getting pieces to help you build a better team to compete with them in the long term.
I'm with you. Do you think that the Lions got enough back here for TJ Hawkinson? Essentially upgraded a fourth round to a second round pick, and a conditional fourth round pick to a 2024 third round draft pick to a 2024 conditional fourth round draft pick. So downgraded that.
I think they could have gotten more. But this kind of speaks volumes about how they feel about TJ Hawkinson, right? They clearly don't view him as a guy who can be a Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce type player. And I think they're right.
His contract's about up, isn't it?
I believe so.
Got to be close.
Yeah. And Hallen here saying Lions don't think TJ is good long term, and the Lions want that number one pick, and Amon-Ra made TJ irrelevant. Maybe not irrelevant, but repetitive maybe.
So he is a first round draft pick. He's in his fourth year, so he still has another year on contract here, and then he'll be an unrestricted free agent in 2024. TJ Hawkinson, that is. Okay.
I mean, that makes sense with that time frame that we're talking about, right? They're not looking to compete in the next 2 years anyways. They're looking to build, accumulate draft picks, draft good players, trade that capital to make your team better, and then it's okay if the Vikings are a little bit better because you traded them your tight end for the next 2 seasons. And then if they want to keep him longer term, they're going to have to sign them to a long-term deal, right?
Right. Yeah, they're gonna have to after that next year for sure. Keith in
Also-
here with an answer. He said for the Calvin Ridley, when can he be in the facility? He said Section 7 of Article 46 of the CBA permits a player suspended under Article 46 to attend the club facility and participate in limited activities during the second half of the suspension. So it should we reach at that point, right? I guess we don't know when the suspension ends. Is it considered over after this season is over, or is it considered over after next season starts?
I have no idea. Or do they measure it from like number of games, not like a time perspective? Know what I mean? Like he's suspended for a
Right.
full season, that equals 17 games. And so after game 9, he can join the facilities.
Yeah, I
We'll
think that's
see.
right.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm just making it up as I go.
So for fantasy, TJ Hawkinson, what does this do for TJ Hawkinson and the rest of the Minnesota Vikings?
TJ Hawkinson, slight bump up. He's on a better offense, but I don't think this is an offense that like heavily uses their tight end, but also Irv Smith was their tight end. So I expect like a slight bump up for TJ Hawkinson just going to a better offense. If this negatively affects someone, I don't know, maybe Adam Thielen a little bit, like just being that red zone guy. I think it doesn't affect Justin Jefferson negatively. It doesn't affect the running backs negatively. If it has a negative impact on anyone, it's Adam Thielen. But even that, I'm not convinced of. The biggest impact for me is just a slight bump for TJ Hawkinson. And it helps Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, it definitely helps Kirk Cousins. It'll be interesting to see how this impacts Justin Jefferson long term. Currently, Justin Jefferson has a 28.9% target share in this offense. Adam Thielen, 20.3% target share. Irv Smith, 13.4% target share. So, and then KJ Osborne, 12.6%. So I think it's reasonable to presume here that TJ Hawkinson will work his way up to this Irv Smith level of target share in this offense, like 15%, 13 to 15%. I think that's totally within his range of outcomes.
Yeah, and it's a better pie that he's getting a piece of, right? Like this Minnesota Vikings pie is a little bit better than that Detroit Lions pie.
I don't know. I don't know if it has been. Maybe for him, for sure. But like Minnesota Vikings haven't been scoring a ton.
Yeah, you're right. But the Lions, I just feel like it was a little bit of like a flash, right? Like we see the big games, but we've also seen them just get completely shut out. Like I have more trust in the consistency of this Minnesota offense than I did in the consistency of that Detroit offense.
That makes
We shall see. Also, Craig in here with a great point, Joe. We were acting like it was a 1-year suspension for Calvin Ridley. The wording on it was that it was indefinite, at least through the 2022 season. So there is no halfway point for indefinite. So I imagine they need to put an end time on that prior to him being allowed in the facility. Otherwise, like what's half of indefinite?
It's a good point. I thought it was a 1 year. I didn't know it was indefinite.
I just threw his name in Google and saw that. I also thought it was 1 year. I don't know why I had that assumption. I think because the wording of it, whenever they released it, was at least through the 2022 season. Like they made it seem like it's definitely a year. And that's what Craig was saying. It's at least a season. It doesn't necessarily mean just a season. So it could be
Gotcha.
longer. Also, Hallen, who's saying Goff can't play on the road. Yeah, that doesn't help TJ either whenever he was there. JL, the next sorry, go ahead.
Brendan asks, how does Singletary affected by the Nyheim Hines trade, which we didn't get into? I think it's a good question. Simon, does this limit his upside?
Maybe a little bit, but I think like it was clear that they wanted to use somebody else in the receiving game anyway. So just take away some of the receiving work, whatever Singletary's gotten this season, and he's still going to be a startable running back. So I still think he's super fantasy relevant. Nyheim Hines doesn't scare me off. He's a supplementary back, not a replacement or even a full committee back.
Yeah, and with Zach Mott's going, I think that he'll largely fill that role. I think we see James Cook get worked into this offense more, but I think Singletary is exactly what he has been, which is useful when he gets to work, but not something you can really rely on.
Yeah. Jail, the next trade I wanted to talk about, this one brings to an end one of the greatest like trade timelines in NFL history. Miami receives Bradley Chubb and a 2025 fifth-round draft pick from Denver. And in return, they gave Chase Edmonds a 2023 first-round draft pick and a 2024 fourth-round draft pick. And this all goes back to Laramie Tunsil ripping a gas mask bong on draft day.
The
That,
greatest
truly,
story ever told.
you can connect this trade all the way back, not just to the Laramie Tunsil trade, but that video being released of him ripping a gas mask bong is the reason he fell to 13 and the Dolphins were able to draft him. They then trade him to the Houston Texans in return for a 2020 first round pick, a 2021 first round pick, a 2021 second round pick, and then 2 additional players, offensive lineman Julian Davenport and cornerback Johnson Batamosi. Those first round picks, they then continued to work some magic with, right? They got Jalen Waddle with one of those picks through a couple more trades, Tyreek Hill, and now they added Bradley Chubb as well. God, that is like an insane, like to take it all the way back. Laramie Tunsil rips bong. Dolphins now have Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Bradley Chubb.
Wild. Truly,
Wild.
I saw one a graphic yesterday that was like just the Trey Lance part of it. It was like Dolphins traded Trey Lance and got Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and who's the third person? I can't remember.
Bradley Chubb.
And Bradley Chubb. Thank you. Jeez. It's wild. Your Bills haven't done that, Dustin.
No, this
truly elite moves by the Dolphins here.
This is a huge move for them. The Dolphins have needed some help in the pass rush. I'm excited to see Bradley Chubb down there. I'm excited to see Bradley Chubb in that Dolphins uniform. Those are fun colors, and Bradley Chubb's a fun guy.
He is.
This is an exciting.
I'll never forget that gas mask bong moment in that draft.
I'm a little bit sad that the Laramie Tunsil, like the butterfly effect of it is over. Like it's done.
Yeah.
That's the end of the draft picks that came
completed.
from that trade. It's completed.
Yeah.
Like the story is complete, and it's a beautiful story. Like to read through it, like just Google like Laramie Tunsil trade timeline at some point today and just read through the entire thing because it is absurd and highlights like just how insane being like an NFL GM can be to like how much one small move can affect the future of your franchise.
It's crazy. Like we talk about it in fantasy and we get stressed about the decisions we make, but holy cow.
Now, and if you remember also like this is high stakes for the Dolphins as well because they lost some draft picks. Like they lost draft picks due to the tampering case this past offseason. I believe they lost a first round pick next year, if I'm not mistaken, and a third round pick the following year. So like the Dolphins need to leverage the picks that they got from that trade in order to compensate for the draft picks that they lost due to the punishment from the league. And I think they did it. I think they did it. I don't think anyone would trade just like their 2023 first round draft pick for all of the pieces they've gotten from the draft picks that they've accumulated. So good work.
No, really good work. Dustin said Dolphins needed to do that. And we draft just amazing players like Josh Allen. So unbiased down there. Brendan saying, how many Kareem Hunt owners should a tier at 4 p.m. yesterday? This is a good point. We should bring out some of the names of the people that weren't traded yesterday that were notably talked about being traded.
I have one. Kareem Hunt.
Great one. Great suggestion, Simon. Kareem Hunt. What happened, Simon? You think the Browns just didn't get what they wanted?
I think he's more valuable than the Browns than anything they were offered. Like Kareem Hunt is a good running back. And yes, they have Nick Chubb, but it's not a bad thing to have 2 very good running backs on your team. I don't think the Browns were pressed to trade him. Know what I mean? Like, I don't think they were dying to get rid of Kareem Hunt off of this team. But if they got a good enough offer, sometimes you get an offer you can't refuse, you move them. They didn't get that, so they're fine rolling with 2 great running backs on their roster.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Let's see. We got Kareem Hunt. We got Cam Akers, Elijah Moore, Brandon Cooks. Another one. Did I miss anybody?
What was the Cam Akers tweet yesterday? It was something very like cryptic again. He said, oh no, it wasn't a tweet from him. So Josina Anderson tweeted out. She tweeted out, with RB Cam Akers not traded by the deadline, I'm told Akers is hoping for a fair resolution for his future beyond the Rams, as he feels suiting up for them again this season isn't in the best interest for his NFL path, though the relationship is still amicable per source. So he still doesn't want to suit up for them. And he says, I'm hoping for a peaceful, like an amicable resolution here where I don't suit up for you again this season.
Can you blame him? Right? Like put his body on the line for a franchise that isn't valuing him. I don't blame him.
I mean, whenever you say not valuing him, do you mean like he lost his starting job, or are there other pieces of the story that I'm missing where like they have like explicitly not valued him? Like it's still a job, right? Like if they make someone else starter,
it's
you work
still a
to become
job.
the starter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I view this as a job, right? Like I'm not assigning blame like, oh, it's the Rams' fault that, you know, they're disrespecting Cam
So that's
Akers.
what
I'm
I
not
thought you
saying
were
any of
saying.
that. It's a business. This is a job. If he decides that he doesn't want to play because it might lead to injury and he doesn't have a long-term deal, I'm okay with that. He's his own advocate, right? Like the team's not going to advocate for him. He has to advocate for himself.
I'm with you on that, Jail. I fully agree. I thought you were saying like he was right in like the sense that maybe the Rams were disrespectful towards him or his career. And I hadn't seen that. Like maybe
I
they
don't
have
know
been,
what
but I
led to
haven't seen
this.
that.
I don't know. We just don't know really what led to this, which is the bigger thing. It kind of just seemed to come out of nowhere. Which makes me think, okay, like let's go Occam's razor here, which is like the simplest answer is probably the right one, in that Cam Akers just wasn't getting used, and he's upset that he wasn't getting used because he feel like he should be used, which is typically how a lot of these player team disputes go.
Yeah. Let's go Occam's razor here.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
2 philosophy days in a row. Boom.
Yeah, and maybe you explain what this one means for anybody who doesn't know.
Occam's razor is, I just described it. It's like it's a philosophical idea. Like the simpler answer is probably the right one in a situation where you're unsure of what the right answer is.
It's like electricity. It follows the path of least resistance.
Boom, bingo.
There we go. Put it in electrical engineering terms. Just kidding. That's the least way to make me understand something. I may have spent 6 years studying it. Sorry, Mom. Don't remember much. Now
this is interesting. I'm just seeing here on the Yahoo Sports Tracker for the trade tracker. It says Denver GM George Patton said Bradley Chubb trade would have happened regardless of Broncos' record. This is from Around the NFL account on Twitter.
Interesting. So they were looking to move him.
They were looking to move Chubb regardless.
Man, they got honestly, like I know that's quite a big haul for Bradley Chubb, but I feel like when we see like the elite of the elite names, right? Like these top tier guys, we see like slightly bigger moves. But man, I don't know what I was expecting. A 1st round pick and a 4th round pick is a pretty hefty price tag to pay for any player.
Yeah.
Pretty hefty price tag to play for any player. Dale, we also saw another trade yesterday. The Chicago Bears traded for wide receiver Chase Claypool, sent a 2023 2nd round draft pick to Pittsburgh for him. Getting a receiver for Justin Fields. Is that what this move is all about? Adding that guy for him? Do you think that's how they're viewing Claypool?
Yeah, I don't know. Like this is a weird move for me because I'm just sitting here thinking like Bears. Why are you trading for a wide receiver right now? Like I know they need wide receiver help, but they have so many holes in that team. I don't know that Chase Claypool is going to be the piece that they need. They're giving up a 2023 2nd round draft pick. It's probably could be pretty useful to them.
So
next year,
I agree with you, but I'm going to try to break down the thought process of like what I think the Bears are doing. I think the Bears know they need a wide receiver for Justin Fields, and their initial plan or the idea of how to address that, this upcoming free agent class is pretty weak. So it's not going to be in free agency that they're going to get it done. They're looking at this upcoming draft class. They don't love the options that are going to be available in the 2nd round in this draft class, even though that may be, based on the holes on this team, the perfect place for them to add a wide receiver. So they're looking at that 2nd round draft pick, looking at the wide receivers they think are going to be available in the 2nd round of this upcoming NFL draft and saying, you know what? I think Chase Claypool is better than every single one of the wide receivers that I could potentially get with that 2nd round draft pick. So they're making the move. I don't know if that's the best logic because this is a bad enough team that they don't need to force a position at certain places in the draft, right? Like if there's not a good enough wide receiver, well, the opportunity cost of Chase Claypool is every other position as well that you're skipping drafting there. But if they are dead set on getting him a wide receiver, they view the 2nd round as the place that they're going to do that, then I don't mind trading that pick for Chase Claypool if they believe he's better than every single receiver they could get in the 2nd round of next year's draft.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to think about it that way. I think it's the positional thing, that point you mentioned of like, I don't think they need to restrict themselves to the wide receiver position because I think they got some wide receiver talent. They just can't utilize it.
Yeah, N'Keal Harry.
Darnell Mooney, the Moondog.
No, I mean, I don't think they have a one on this offense. Darnell Mooney's a great wide receiver.
I don't think Claypool. I still don't think they have a one.
Yeah, I didn't say I don't think they had a one. I still don't think they have a one on this offense. But they are adding Chase Claypool to give him a little bit of help. Give him a little bit of help. I mean, if anything, like this, I think this is relatively neutral for Chase Claypool, right? Like maybe he moves up the pecking order a little bit. Like he had George Pickens and Deontay Johnson ahead of him in that other offense. Now he's dealing with Darnell Mooney, but I think Chase Claypool is probably immediately the second best receiver on this team, ahead of Velus Jones, ahead of whoever the hell, Equinemius St. Brown, all these guys that they've been chucking the ball to this year. So,
but you think Mooney's the number one?
I think Mooney's still the number one receiver here. I think Mooney is still the number one receiver. Do you, or do you think it's Claypool?
I don't know. I think this could be 1A, 1B situation. I see these guys as very, very similar players.
Oh, Hal saying Mooney is a 3. He's just trying to fight me this morning.
Trying to get under your skin. Maria said, "What trade did you have to make to get rid of Coop?" It wasn't a good one. It wasn't a good one. We lost that trade for sure. Simon had to give up Leanne.
It was rough. Yeah, I live alone now. It's pretty sad over here. I gave up Leanne to get rid of Coop.
It was
not a good deal. So, I mean, what I was thinking initially when I was trying to make that trade was that I would actually get something in return. Not that the trade would involve me giving away Coop and Leanne. That seems brutal.
Yeah. You think it'd be one or the other, but Simon, your sacrifice is noted, and me as well as the rest of the chat really appreciate it. Just so you know.
Getting rid of Coop? I thought getting rid of Coop was a negative. Oh, just my sacrifice for the hell of sacrifice?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best kind of sacrifice. A sacrifice for nothing. A sacrifice just for the purpose of suffering.
Exactly.
And when you said, so does Leanne live at Coop's house now? No, in Iceland.
She's on the street. In Iceland.
On the street in Iceland is where she is right now.
That's where she lives now. That's home for her. All right, you want to keep hitting these trades, Simon?
Let's hit another one. Dale, I wanted to talk about one that involved your Baltimore Ravens. They received a defensive player. I know we're mostly talking offense here, but they traded for Roquan Smith, and they traded to Chicago, A.J. Klein, a second-round draft pick, and a fifth-round draft pick. As a Ravens fan, Jay, how are you feeling about this, adding Roquan Smith to your roster?
We talked about it a bit yesterday on the show. I'm happy about it. I think this firmly puts the Ravens as the favorite in our division in the AFC North here. Yeah, thank you. Brain fart. Roquan Smith is a fantastic player, fantastic linebacker. He's been playing very well. I don't know what the Ravens' plan is in terms of like long term here. Roquan Smith is on his final deal, so they're gonna have to negotiate a new deal for him after the season. We'll see how that goes. I think there's definitely risk they're taking on with that, especially with Lamar not being locked up. But I think this is a win now move, and I like it. That Ravens defense is sick now. Super young, super talented.
That seems like a great deal for Ravens. When I first saw this, I was like, what? Like Chicago got what in return for Roquan Smith? Like it just didn't quite add up to me. It seems like they could have gotten more than a second and a fifth in my eyes, but maybe I'm wrong there. Do you feel good about the deal for the Ravens? Like what they gave up to get him?
I think they gave up a decent amount for I think that if I understand correctly, the Chicago is essentially eating his contract this year. And so they're taking him, they're taking Roquan Smith for free this year, but they're paying for it with a second and a fifth next year. And they're not going to have him locked up next season. So they have to renegotiate a deal with him. It's a short-term play, the way that I see this. I don't know if it's a great deal for them, but I think it's one that it's a good strategy.
Yeah.
Especially given our division is very competitive, right? The AFC North is super competitive. It doesn't feel like the teams currently are playing up to their level. So maybe this is an opportunity for the Ravens.
We say it's competitive, but it feels like the Ravens are just the best team. Yeah, historically it's very competitive. And I mean, looking at the records, like I know the Steelers are down at 2-6, but the Browns aren't even out of it at 3-5 with Watson coming back soon. The Bengals sitting there at 4-4. The Ravens have a 1-game lead at 5-3 in this division. So it is still a competitive division this year as well. Like Whether it feels that way or not, this division is still competitive.
It is. Dustin said, did Leanne go to Iceland with Coop?
No.
She just went after.
Independently.
Totally unrelated to Coop. Yeah, Coop's, they're on their honeymoon. Leanne lives there now.
On the street.
On the street, yeah.
It's quite cold.
Brandon asking, who's even the tight end for Detroit now? Does Dan Campbell suit back up? Is this a big brain move by the Lions?
Yeah, Dan Campbell's the tight end now.
Pass it to me, man.
No, it's I mean, I looked this up yesterday. The names sitting there on the roster. Brock Wright and James Mitchell are the guys up. Brock Wright maybe sees a little bit more work, but I'm not even sure he's in the tight end glob. Like, do you really want, like, there was no relevancy prior to TJ Hawkinson getting traded. Nobody was talking about Brock Wright. Like, I don't think his role in this offense, like, they're not going to force a role for Brock Wright.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Lions know what they're doing. They know that they're not gonna be a playoff team this year. So
throw Brock out there.
So throw Brock out there. Just feed Amon-Ra St. Brown. It is so. Just speaking fantasy context here, fantasy effects. Amon-Ra St. Brown up, right? Arrow up.
Oh, my arrow is so up for Amon-Ra St. Brown right now.
6 to midnight for Amon-Ra St. Brown.
6 to midnight. We're going camping.
Keep that sake. What about the other pieces on this team? DeAndre Swift, does it affect him?
Well, it definitely is positive for Amon-Ra St. Brown, without a doubt. No, I want to make sure we like highlight just how good this is. Like, we saw last year what he did when he was the only person in this offense, right? Like, that was the boom at the end of last season. We may see another end of the year for Amon-Ra St. Brown like we saw last year. DeAndre Swift, I mean, I don't think it has much of an impact on him. Maybe this offense just takes a slight step back as a whole, but I don't think TJ Hawkinson was like making this offense run whenever it was running. He wasn't the big time playmaker, except in week 4, whenever he had like 40 PPR fantasy points.
Right.
So I don't think this has too much of an impact on anybody except for Amon-Ra St. Brown and maybe a secondary receiver there in Detroit as well.
Brandon said it's pretty important for a tight end to be able to Brock right. I don't know if he can Brock left, though. Pretty good.
That's a pretty good one, Brendan. That's a pretty good one. Craig would be proud.
Craig is probably proud. He's there.
And he said they could force a role for him. You never know. Yeah, that is true. Grimace gang. They should get Grimace out there at tight end.
They should. So I think there are 2 more really relevant trades worth talking about here in terms of fantasy. And both of them involve Miami. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but I don't think we went in depth here. Miami receiving Bradley Chubb in a 2020 pick. Denver receiving Chase Edmonds, running back, 2023 first-round draft pick, and a 2024 fourth-round draft pick. Did we go? We didn't break this one down, right?
Is this Bradley Chubb?
It's Bradley Chubb, but we talk about Chase Edmonds and stuff?
We broke this one down, but we did not talk about Chase Edmonds. We talked about Laramie Tunsil ripping his gas mask bong, leading to Bradley Chubb being on the Dolphins.
Right. So fantasy impact of this trade. What are you thinking?
Nothing.
So Miami Dolphins, obviously, or Miami Dolphins defense is upgrade, right? Bradley Chubb. They're trying to make a playoff run here.
Slight upgrade for that defense. Like, from like a defensive scoring perspective, yeah, maybe you add a couple sacks a game. Like, I'm not like now drooling over this Miami defense. It helps. They're doing this to make a playoff run, but I'm not drooling over them. Chase Edmonds going to the Broncos, all that does is make everything worse. Like, it just ruins, like, that backfield was already messy, right? Like, we were debating, like, who's the guy you should start? Is it Latavius Murray? Is it Melvin Gordon? Well, now the answer is probably none of them. Like, if you're going to start any of those guys, I'm going to go Latavius, but they added Chase Edmonds. Melvin Gordon wasn't getting the work. They clearly want to limit him in some fashion. So as much as I loved Melvin Gordon this offseason, I drafted him everywhere. I thought if Javonte goes down, we're going to see this role increase. I think this just got a hell of a lot messier for Melvin Gordon, and he's borderline unstartable in fantasy until I see how they're using Chase Edmonds.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is iffy. You got Latavius, Chase Edmonds, Melvin Gordon. That is murky as hell.
No, but it helps Raheem Mostert, right? Clears that up a little bit over there. Moving Chase Edmonds.
It does. But you know what doesn't help him is this next trade I'm going to bring up, which is what happened right after. And shout out Kyle Yates, because he tweeted out right after the Bradley Chubb trade and the Chase Edmonds ones. Said, I feel like this tells me that there's likely going to be another running back trade coming. And he was right, because we saw Jeff Wilson traded from the San Francisco 49ers to the Miami Dolphins, fill in that Chase Edmonds. I don't even know if you can call it a hole that he left, a little baby dent. San Francisco receiving a 2023 fifth round draft pick for Jeff Wilson. This is a win for 49ers, just in the sense of they didn't need Jeff Wilson. They have CMC now. They got Elijah Mitchell coming back. They don't need Jeff Wilson Jr. there. So if they can get a fifth round draft pick, that's just net positive, in my opinion.
Yep, I'm with you. And this doesn't affect Raheem Mostert for me all that much. I still think he's going to be the lead back there. What it does affect is who the backup is, because we know Raheem Mostert has had trouble staying healthy, right? Like, we hate to label players injury prone, but look at his history. He has had trouble staying on the field. So I know his backup is something that people are rostering in fantasy. So it's Jeff Wilson now. It's not Myles Gaskin. It's not Salvon Ahmed. It's Jeff Wilson. And that's the backup to roster if you want to roster a backup.
Yeah, I think my concern is similar to that for Raheem Mostert. Was Chase Edmonds being there prior to the season, or going into the season? We were worried that this is going to be split, and that worry is a little bit bigger now, because we knew that Chase Edmonds wasn't getting it done. So I feel like before the trade, but after the last week or so, I think a lot of people are like, yeah, Mostert's the guy now. Like, I can trust Mostert. I can play him week in, week out. This makes me think I'm not as confident to start him week in out. I do want to see how they use Jeff Wilson in case this does limit him. I don't think Raheem Mostert is so good that he is guaranteed to be the main guy there.
I think he's the main guy. Like, I still have confidence from what we've seen from Raheem Mostert this year, how securely he beat out Chase Edmonds, and how much it seems like Mike McDaniel likes the dude, that he is going to be the lead back. Jeff Wilson will get some work, but maybe I'm a little bit more optimistic on Raheem Mostert. He's made a believer out of me this year. He looks good.
That's fair.
He's looked pretty good out there, and he won that job
very fast,
cleanly. Like, know what I mean? Like, it was just his job. And I did not expect Tim saying Mostert the boy now. Yeah, he's killing
that guy. But I think that was I think we hit the big trades here. There was some more defensive trades that certainly have implications, but we hit the main offensive one. This is kind of a crazy trade deadline.
And even crazier were some of the teams that didn't make trades. Like, I expected the Packers, the Giants, the Buccaneers to get in on this trade action. Like, I kept waiting for the moves from those teams, and they just didn't happen. Nothing moved.
Did not happen.
Like, man, if you're Aaron Rodgers and you're watching these other teams trade for wide receivers, add pieces over here, add Calvin Ridley, add Chase Claypool, you got to be pretty pissed, right? Like, you're sitting there, you're like, seriously? Like, you're not even going to draft me a first-round guy ever. And then in the trade deadline, you're going to add nothing, even though we're struggling offensively. It's clear that I need help in the receiving game. And the Packers are like, nah. Do you think this signifies that maybe, like, this is the last year for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay? Like, do you think maybe they're saying, like, okay, like, let's not spend our draft capital going out because our window is closed. Aaron Rodgers is going to leave, and we shouldn't be using draft capital to try to appease him or to help this team that isn't going to win at all.
I think that's a very, very likely situation, Simon. I think that could very likely be true. If they're thinking about this as like a chess game from a strategy perspective, that would make a lot of sense. Yeah. They're not expecting Aaron Rodgers to be there in the following years. They probably want to keep that draft capital, and they're going to need to get another quarterback. Jordan Love is not the guy.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
The time will tell, but it's been a lot of time.
It is not looking good. Tim, also when you're saying McDaniel getting all the San Francisco running backs, just wait for CMC on the Fins next season.
And Hal's saying, why would they guarantee that Rodgers left? I think they just know the writings on the wall. I think I don't know. If I was LaFleur, I'd be sick of Rodgers. I'd be like, get the F out of here.
Yeah, I don't think it's them so much. Like, why would we put that blame on them if they think he's going to leave? Like, they've already made all the mistakes prior to this that led to Rodgers' frustration. Rodgers has also been frustrating towards them, I have to imagine. Frustrating to deal with. So being a realist, understanding the reality of the situation isn't like admitting defeat. Know what I mean?
Right.
Like it can be like, okay, this is where we're at, and let's move forward with this information instead of trying to make moves based on this unfounded optimism. Like based off around one person in your offense, right? If all of their strategy decisions are around like Aaron Rodgers' emotions, then it's probably not going to lead to the best football outcomes. And Hallen, you're saying they paid him guaranteed contract. I get all of the reasons why it won't happen. Know what I mean? Like, I understand all of the arguments for why Aaron Rodgers will be on the Packers next year. I get it. But man, if it just feels like he's not going to be on the Packers next year, like whatever it takes,
it doesn't mean they're not hedging.
Happier. Yeah,
it doesn't mean they're not hedging.
Absolutely. Jay, there was another player that I think maybe people expected to see traded that we did not see traded, and that was wide receiver Elijah Moore of the New York Jets. Ended up staying put. The Jets received calls for him. This comes from Dov Kleiman, but the Jets didn't want to pull the trigger per the team. Are you surprised that we saw Elijah Moore stay put after what we've seen from him this season so far?
Not surprised. He was one of obviously he was one of the more we kept hearing more and more about his situation because he was more vocal about it in the weeks leading up to the trade deadline. But the Jets were pretty firm on, we're not trying to trade Elijah Moore. I feel like the way they're thinking about it is like, what's the upside, right? What are they going to trade Elijah Moore for? What are they going to get for him? And if that wasn't there for them, then I'm not surprised if they didn't make the move. I don't think I'm ever surprised that a team didn't make a trade move because it takes a lot of energy and
Cameron's razor means that
Cameron's
razor means that the most likely outcome is they just stay on the team they're already on.
Yeah,
right.
That is true. Cameron's razor.
Yeah. Oh, Cameron, your razor just every time.
I was thinking about. Never mind.
Never mind. That's for another time.
That's not an interesting story.
Guys, coming up, we are going to talk trade values with our friend Alex, aka the Trade Daddy, and we've got Ahman Green coming on a little bit later in the show today as well. If you're enjoying what we do over here, good news. There's a whole YouTube channel with more of this. Head on over to Front Yard Fantasy and make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Good luck finding it.
Good luck.
I just like to say, there is a YouTube channel that has way more of this. Good luck.
It's a scavenger hunt. And here is your riddle to find it. What lives in the deep but has no sleep? Find us on YouTube. That was just that riddle means
I like
nothing.
that. That's pretty good. That's pretty good off the dome.
Just pulled it out of nowhere. Guys, right now you are listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network.
Front Yard Fantasy, weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Better Sports Network.
There was a tweet about the refs that had me kind of cracking up the other day because somebody was like, we have the technology to track the ball down to a centimeter and figure out, what speed these guys are running on the field. Yet somehow we still mark the ball by
That's my favorite.
a 60-year-old dude eyeballing it, and then we run over with literal chains and measure it. It's like, you think we can probably get that figured out.
The least precise way to measure something, and then immediately following that up with a super precise way of measuring something.
Yeah. It's like we have satellite.
Like if you're a millimeter short of that chain that they bring out there, that they ran out it as best they could in a straight line. But if you first they just go here, and then they grab the chains and they run in the straightest line possible. But then if you are 1 millimeter short with that football, doesn't count. Sorry. Couldn't have been human error. You're just short.
That's exactly. And, they bring up the index card or whatever. Meanwhile, they have satellites in space tracking how fast Brandin Ayuk ran on an end around. But we can't,
and I can see that number live while he's doing it. Like I can see every player's speed on the screen live.
I love that. It's and not to mention that dude's trying to make the spot and the player always tosses the ball right into his face. Right? He's coming over to spot it, and it's every other time the player just here you go. Here's another thing to juggle.
On call with Dr. Roto.
If the Giants don't win another game this year, A, I'll be shocked. But B, I'll still think that they're better than they were with Joe Judge. Much better. Because I think Brian Dable's got a lot out of this team already. And I'm seeing what this team could be. See, that's the problem with owners and general managers. I see Nathaniel Hackett and I see a guy who can't get it done. I see Matt Rule and see a guy who never should have been hired. Disaster right away. Sometimes a good coordinator in the NFL is better. I don't even say sometimes. Most of the time, a good coordinator in the NFL is better than a college coach because the NFL coordinators, they know the system. They've been there. They've played. They've been around it. For the life of me, I don't know why Eric Bieniemy hasn't gotten a job yet. Deuce Staley's going to get a job. Somebody's going to hire that dude. When you've been around the game, You understand it. These college guys come, they don't know it.
Join the show with one touch of a button. It's Sports Talk 3.0 on Better Sports Network.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back into the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network. How's it going, JL? You feeling all right still? I figured I'd do a check-in about halfway through.
I'm feeling good. Feeling good. How you feeling, Simon?
Fantastic. Never been
Woo-hoo.
better.
Number one
Day. Number one
day.
morning.
Good
Best
time.
day of the day.
Ooh.
Actually,
Happy
maybe
boys.
yesterday was a pretty good number one day with all the NFL news. That was preposterous. That was an overflow. Like that whole segment right there was just one day's worth of news. Like we have talked.
There was so much to talk about.
And there's more to talk about.
More we could have talked about.
We skimmed over some of it, right? There was infinite more to talk about, but man, that was
I love football.
That was exciting. Just pump it into my veins. I feel like that Browns Bengals game on Monday night. I know it wasn't even the best game, but it was just this moment where like I had this like, man, I love football. Like I was watching it and it was just like sometimes you get in the grind, and I always enjoy watching football, but I was sitting there and I was like, God, this is so cool that we just watch football. And then tomorrow I get to talk about this with my friends.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments where I was just like, this is the absolute bomb. Like this is the best.
Go to work. Sit on my couch, turn on the TV, watch football.
Yeah. Leanne always jokes that I have a 10-second commute. Like in the 10 seconds is just reaching my AirPods from the bedside table. And that's my commute in the morning. Then we head on over here, talk with you guys, because we're about to get into a new segment that we are calling We Answer Reddit. Reddit's got all sorts of questions, and JL and I are going to do our best to answer them. JL, anything else I'm missing on this segment?
That's it. It's really simple. We're just going to attempt to answer Reddit's greatest questions.
Okay. You want to kick us off with one?
I will absolutely kick us off with one, Simon. Whoops, opened in the wrong window here. Here's the first question, posted in r/questions. Should I throw away all of my dishes? What do I do if I bought some raw chicken, put some of it in Tupperware in the fridge because I did not want to cook it all, because I did not want to cook all of it at once? Forgot about it in the fridge for a week, then remembered it was there. Took it out to throw away, but forgot to throw it away. Left it inside of the Tupperware container on the counter overnight. Remembered the next day, opened the Tupperware container to throw it out, then washed the Tupperware with a Scrub Daddy and Dawn Platinum, and then used that same Scrub Daddy to wash a ton of other dishes. What do I do? Do I throw away all of my dishes?
Yes. Throw away every last dish you own if you touch them with the same Scrub Daddy. Kitchen sponges are gross enough, and your kitchen sponge touching one of your dishes is almost enough to throw it away anyways. But what you did with raw chicken is just foul. Like that is disgusting. I know I'm supposed to be answering this person's question, but first I need to judge them. Okay. Like first I just got to get this out of the way. You had raw chicken you didn't want to eat and you put it in the fridge. Like you can freeze that and it doesn't go bad. You can just throw it in the freezer forever. There's chicken breasts in my freezer that have been in there for like 4 years. And I can still eat. Like they've made moves with me. And you know what? One day I might get hungry enough and it's in the freezer. It's fine. I can still eat it. I can grill that up and it's fine. A nice chicken breast that's been frozen, you're good to go. Why would you put that in the fridge?
It feels like every single way that they should have handled chicken, they did it the wrong way.
And then
you messed up.
God. And here's what you should have done when you found it in the fridge, in a Tupperware container. One single Tupperware container. Your mistake, your disaster was centralized. It was in one spot. You had it ready to go. All you had to do was sacrifice one Tupperware container that had been ruined and sullied by this rotten raw chicken and throw it in your garbage.
Greedy.
Done. You got greedy. You got selfish. You thought, I'm not throwing away my one piece of Tupperware.
I don't want to go buy another pice of Tupperware.
And now you're in a new position. You should.
You got to buy a whole new kitchen.
You got to buy a whole new kitchen. Honestly, move out of the house. Find a new place to live. I also I hate touching raw meat. Like Leanne and I, we get Blue Apron. We get 3 meals a week. And we alternate who cooks. And when it's my turn to cook, I'm always like, oh, what about this one? And she's like, yeah, that one looks good. But the secret is every time I pick the one that doesn't have meat in it. Not so much because I don't want to eat the meat. It's because I don't want to handle the meat. Cooking chicken takes me about 45 minutes longer than if there wasn't chicken in there because every time I touch it, I'm washing my hands. Like,
and yet, I just imagine you gag every time.
I do. I actively gag whenever I'm touching raw. It's just so slimy and nasty. It's disgusting. Whoever asked this question, I think you have to throw away all of your dishes. Like, you can try to salvage them. I've tried to fill your bathtub with bleach and put all your dishes in there before. It doesn't work. Like, it does not work. And I'm imagining if he said he scrubbed them all with a scrub daddy, that he doesn't have a dishwasher that he can trust, puts out like mega steam to kill everything. So like without a dishwasher, you're just screwed. Or have a friend with a dishwasher, I guess.
Bring all your dishes over to your friend's house.
Just show up with a laundry basket full of dishes.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Greg said raw chicken foul/foul. Well done, Simon.
100% on purpose, without a doubt.
And Jay said, yeah. So Simon, you probably shouldn't eat chicken frozen after about a year.
Who made you the frozen chicken expert, Jay?
Apparently he's a chicken guy.
He's a chicken guy.
Jay also said, what should I do if what should I do with a measuring cup if never mind? And I'm sure most people in the audience don't know, but Jay woke up one morning to find that his son had pooped in their measuring cup and left it in the kitchen.
You keep that one.
My follow-up question was, did you throw it away?
No, you keep it. You put it with your chicken Tupperware is what you do over there. Yeah, I think we solved this one for that guy, Jay.
You want to get on the next one?
Warm-up question. Before we do that, Cade had a question for us. Wanted to know Fields or T-Law rest of season. So we're answering Reddit questions, but we're also answering your questions. And Cade, this one is very easy for me. I love T-Law, but this is Justin Fields. Justin Fields, I think people are still holding on to those first 3-4 weeks of the season where he was abysmal and where the Bears were throwing like less than 20 times a game. This dude, one, has thrown the ball 20 times or more. Like, I know that's not a ton, but it's a small threshold over the past 4 weeks. In 3 of his last 4 games, he's got 60-plus rushing yards. He's been a top 5 quarterback 2 of the last 3 weeks, and he has been a QB 13 or better in his last 4 outings. Overall in the season, he's a QB 1. He's up there in the top 12 quarterbacks on the year. This is Justin Fields. Like, everyone needs to wash off the stink that was the beginning of the season because they're starting to design more runs for him. And him getting like 60 yards in a game, that's a touchdown. Know what I mean? That is a touchdown added onto his score every single week. Justin Fields is the answer for me. What about you, JL?
I am going to go on the other side of this. It's Trevor Lawrence for me. I wanted to see if I could do this quick calculation because I remember I did it yesterday. I still have it up. So Trevor Lawrence is averaging 34.6 passing attempts per game. Justin Fields, on the other hand, is averaging, and I'll tell you here in 1 second, he's averaging 19.8 pass attempts per game. That is a massive difference. Justin Fields, the last 2, you mentioned 2 out of the last 3 weeks, he's been a QB1. Largely came off the back of rushing touchdowns. He had 1 touchdown. I am not as confident in this Bears offense. I think the Jacksonville offense will score more points. I think they'll move a lot more than the Chicago Bears offense rest of the season. Rushing upside for Justin Fields definitely gives him a nice boost, but I'd rather have the passing attempts with Trevor Lawrence.
Man, Jale, it's not just that he's been a QB1 the past 2 weeks. He has been a top 5 quarterback the past 2 weeks. Like, you take away that rushing touchdown, he still has had a great week. Like, it's
for
still
sure. I'm not trying to take that away, but he still only threw 21 times in week 7, 23 times in week 8. He's not passing a ton. And so I think his upside is certainly limited.
Man, I just don't think it matters. Last 3 games, 88 rushing yards, 82 rushing yards, 60 rushing yards, a rushing touchdown in 2 of the 3. And they're designing plays for him to get those rushing touchdowns. It's not just him scrambling, right? Like,
I'm not arguing against Justin Fields at all. Like, I'm with you on that stuff. I'm also bullish on Justin Fields. So I'm just more bullish on Trevor Lawrence.
I think Justin Fields is a QB1 at the end of the season. Like, I think he ends in that top 12. I do not think Trevor Lawrence is in that top 12. So, like, you're saying either you don't think Justin Fields is, or do you think Trevor Lawrence has that top 12 upside?
Yeah, I think both. Well, no, I don't think Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields could, just from the rushing. He could absolutely finish top 12. I wouldn't predict that though.
Yeah, and I guess Trevor Lawrence is up there right now as well. Currently 1 spot ahead of Justin Fields. They're both QB1s. But man, I just Justin Fields is doing that after 4 abysmal games at the beginning, right? Like I'm viewing the recent trends and saying I think this is going to continue and not the other way around.
Trevor Lawrence has been consistent. He's been very consistent apart from the 1 week against Philadelphia where it was bad. It just, and I guess last week was not fantastic from a fantasy perspective, but apart from that, he's been fairly consistent. He's been a solid QB1 for you.
Yeah. After week 3, I see Caden here asking what are his average passing attempts after week 3. He hasn't dipped below 21 since week 3.
Justin Fields.
So Fields since week 3.
22.8.
There we go. It's in that range. His high was 27. His low was 21. Most of them in the 21 to 23 range.
It went up about three attempts per game if you take out the first 3.
Yeah, I'm firmly on the Fields side. I don't dislike Trevor Lawrence. I just think Fields is with that rushing upside, I think he's the guy to start rest of the season. It's a cheat code for fantasy football.
That's fair.
You want to get into our next Q, JL?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. The next question is comes from r/fantasy _ football community subreddit. Says, as a commissioner, do I let this trade go through? Austin Eckler for CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, and Lamar Jackson. Our league is an auction draft where we get one keeper for free. The guy receiving Eckler is 1-7 and made it very clear he's giving up on this year. He sent similar lopsided trades like this throughout the league. Is it unfair to contenders this year if I allow the guy receiving CD, Devontae, and Lamar to form a super team? He already has Mandrews, Tyreek, Kamara, Stevenson, and St. Brown. Simon, you/Ty Lee need some guidance. Help him out. Should you let this trade go through?
Here's the problem. It's a keeper league. Know what I mean? And if this isn't defined in your bylaws, like no tanking, if you don't have no tanking defined in your bylaws and your rules before the season starts, within a keeper league, I think this is within the bounds of what you can do. He views Eckler as a better keeper than every single one of the other 3 players that he traded. It sucks. I don't think this is good for the league, but I think if it's not in your rules that you can't tank, like an anti-tanking clause, then this trade has to go through. I think you have to let it stand. It's a keeper league. He says, I want to keep Austin Eckler for next year, and I'm willing to trade everything from this year in order to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mostly tend towards the side of lean on the rules and unless it's specified, then it's fine. And if you're really butthurt about it, go find a new league. It's kind of the mentality I take.
Either add a no tanking clause to your league in the offseason or get rid of keepers. Know what I mean? If you don't want this to be an option, if you're bothered by people making moves for the following years, then maybe a keeper league isn't the right league for your group. Yeah. Or maybe add more keepers. That's another solution, right? If you want to avoid trades like this where you're willing to give up everything just for one guy for next year, make it a 4-keeper league. Keep 4 players. Then you're not making this move. Then you're not doing that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think we answered that one pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like maybe we got someone who has an opinion joining us right here. Our friend Hal, and Hal in the chat said trades suck. So I have a feeling what they're going to think about this one. Hal, do we have you on? What's up, man?
What's going on, gentlemen?
Good morning, my friend.
It certainly is. Yeah, trades suck. I'm a commissioner in a 14-team league, man, and I about had to blow the thing up. And we're all adults and have been in leagues together for 15 years, and people wanted to cry about collusion.
Tell us what happened. So what were they upset about this time?
I don't even remember what the trade was because this was actually last year. And the funniest part was all the players ended up injured or non-relevant by the end of the season. It was just, and that's the whole point, is that anybody who complains about a trade, you can't predict the future. Playing fantasy should tell you that. You have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow.
How that is that's my biggest point whenever people bring up like that the veto should be a thing. I was like, no, I don't trust us enough to know what's a veto unless it's collusion. Unless it's clear that it's collusion, because the number of times I've seen a trade through and been like, oh my God, that is so unfair. And it was unfair, but it was on the other side where the side that I thought lost came out as the clear winner. It happens every year.
All the players on one side gets hurt.
And then all of a sudden you look at something else, trust people to make their own decisions. If people want to ruin their team, let them ruin their team, because maybe you think they're ruining it, but really they could be building a contender over there. I love trades, but I do hate the visceral reaction people have to trades. Know what I mean? The need to declare a winner, the need to declare a loser, the need to say, this is unfair, this is collusion.
That's the whole thing about fantasy. We want winners and we want losers.
Yeah, we do.
We do. We get plenty of winners and losers in the weekly the weekly results, right? Like we don't have to have winners and losers in trades as well.
I agree. Like trading can be fun, but people are just too uptight about it. Like in that 14-team league this year, guys are putting like Drake London and an injured Damian Harris on the trade block, and I'm like, what? Why are you doing this? What is the point of that?
What are you trying to get out of this?
Would
Like, and then you send them a trade offer. Right, you send them a trade offer, your bench garbage for their bench garbage, and they get offended. You're like, I don't think you understand the value of your players.
It's the endowment
effect. Because you drafted them. Yeah, just because you drafted them doesn't mean they get extra 5 points.
Are you sure? All the players on my team, I'm pretty sure are at their ceiling, and all the players on your team, I'm pretty sure are at their floor, and that's how we should value them when we talk trade talks. I'm almost positive that's how it works.
Right? But I do like to try and trade, and I'm the worst guy. I am who they made all the trade memes about, sending over that terrible trade offer to start. So
at least we got some self-awareness about it, like that. As long even if you're shitty about trades, like at least you're like, yeah, I'm shitty about trades.
It's so much worse. The guy who sends over the shitty trade offers and thinks he sent you like a great offer, where he's like, yeah, this is the one. This is the move. Like someone who sends you Baker Mayfield in a third for Joe Burrow in a super flex league, and then acts offended. This year, I got offered that trade. Can you believe that?
I just got offered
but I wish I could.
DeAndre Hopkins for a first in Dynasty League.
Not making that move. Not making that move.
You guys want to hear a really fun chicken story?
Yes, so much.
I worked as a maintenance guy for a private high school, and over the summer, one of the giant freezers went bad.
Oh no.
And they called us in to try and work on it. And so, of course, we opened up the door. At that point, we had to call an environmental cleanup crew to come out. No
one of those
joke.
like crime scene crews.
Crime scene, hazardous waste. Like I'm from Michigan, so it's usually all oil and car industry related stuff.
Yeah.
But this time not. It was the crazy, like the size of a 3-car garage, this freezer. And it had sat all summer.
Oh my God.
And there's no oxygen in there. So nothing happened all summer until that door opened and oxygen was introduced to the situation. An instant, like just explosion of horrible.
That is disgusting.
Oh, no.
You were there when the door opened?
Oh, yeah. I was right behind my boss. And my boss was 21 and I was 18. Like, we were not qualified for the situation.
Oh, my God. A 3-car garage just full of rotting meat. That is disgusting.
That is gross. Thanks for sharing that story with us,
Hal. That is wild.
No problem, guys.
Did they just
throw
away
the Tupperware, dude? Just wash your stuff, bro. It's fine.
Just call the EPA and they'll come in and take care of it. There we go. That's the solution.
Thanks, guys.
Hal,
have a good one.
Appreciate you coming on, my man. Oh, that is disgusting. That is so gross.
I have a pretty disgusting chicken story.
Okay.
Before we hit these questions,
I got a disgusting chicken story too. Well, let's get all our chicken stories.
I think I've told this on stream before, but I'll share it again for anybody who wasn't there that first time. Yeah, we we went on a vacation in the summer when I was a kid. I was maybe like 12 or 13, and we were gone for about 3 weeks. And when we came back, my dad was sitting there doing his work in his office, just, mind his own business. He walks over to the kitchen, opens up the oven. He's like, Kathy made some chicken for dinner, some baked chicken. It's got a little cheese on it. So he pulls one out, takes a big old bite of it, and is like, nope, it was chicken that was left from dinner before the vacation. And the cheese was mold. And the cheese, and he was like, "Yeah, that's not good." Like Kathy didn't cook that, right? I must see my mom in the chat laughing. He did not get sick somehow. I have no idea. My dad is the luckiest man on earth.
That is not fair. I like a cracker too fast and I get sick. Like,
and did I mention it was middle of July and our power went out during the trip? So like, it was hot.
That's disgusting. That is so gross.
It was really nasty.
I think part of the reason I'm so grossed out by raw chicken is one time Tim and I, we were driving to Cleveland, Ohio to visit my family. We were in the car together, and right before we left Kentucky, we stopped at Steak and Shake for lunch. We love some Steak and Shake, and I ordered the chicken fingers. They come out. I'm so excited. I've never had a bad chicken finger from Steak and Shake, right? Like Steak and Shake just absolutely kills it. And I go to bite into it, and it's really chewy, and I like rip, and then I look down, completely raw inside the breading, 100% raw chicken. And I spit it out.
The Tommy Trembles.
And I called the waitress over, and I like just showed her the chicken finger, and she grabs my plate and she goes, "What the fuck?" And just runs off to the kitchen. And like from the restaurant, everyone turns over because they have an open kitchen at Steak and Shake, as she just lays into the cooks. Like everyone got silent in the restaurant, and they're looking at the kitchen as this waitress just went off on the fact that they gave me raw chicken tenders. It was a spectacle. Like it was uncomfortable.
Props to her.
No, but then they gave me the entire meal for free. And I gave her a tip, the price of the meal.
I didn't want you to sue them.
They just comped every single thing on that meal. It wasn't even a problem.
Lord. All right, let's hit some of these questions. Tyson in here. Yeah, we haven't answered this one yet. Josh Palmer, Kadarius Toney, or Drake London at the flex, PPR. So week 9, Josh Palmer, Kadarius Toney, or Drake London this week, Simon?
Give me Josh Palmer. With Mike Williams going to miss time, he saw 12 targets in his last game. He seems pretty involved when either Williams, Allen, or both miss time. So I know Allen's expected back this week. Like we're expecting him to play, but even with him back, I expect Palmer to have an extended role.
So Drake London's not even enticing to you here?
They're throwing the ball 6 times a game.
three times a game. Yeah. Joshua Palmer has got a nice matchup going against Atlanta. It's Atlanta and Chargers this week. I'm with you. Josh Palmer for me as well.
Josh Palmer. Also, some of these trade questions I see in here, we do have the trade daddy himself joining us in less than 10 minutes. So maybe we hit some of those trade questions with trade daddy whenever he comes on.
That is smart. Yeah, we will do that. So yeah, if you ask one of these trade questions, we will hit it momentarily whenever the trade daddy comes on here at top of the hour.
Yeah. Lucius did have a question for us that wasn't a trade question though, JL. He said, who do you prefer rest of season, Debo or Pittman? Who do you prefer rest of season?
Debo. And a major, the main tiebreaker there is the offense that he's on. This Colts offense is looking horrific. Sam Ehlinger just not the guy right off the bat, which isn't surprising, right? None of the Malik Willis didn't play well this week. None of the quarterbacks from this class have really established themselves yet. I wouldn't expect Sam to do that either. Debo they're making moves that they're trying to make a run for it. It's a CMC move. I'm all in on Debo. Give me Debo.
It's Debo Samuel. It's a better offense. I think it's a better player and better quarterback, at least for right now. For him.
What the F?
You just read the Will comment? Is that what you're reading? Yeah. I was processing that one. I was sitting here going, how do I bring this up? How do I say this out loud? I'll let you do it instead, JL.
Okay, Will in here, our guy Will. What's up, Will? Said, my grandma has always hated cooking chicken. One day I asked her why. She said, because it reminds me of cooking little pieces of babies. Still not sure what to think about that.
I
don't blame you. That I would still be processing that as well.
Well, one, thanks for putting that image in my head. Know what I mean? Yes. Thanks for making it so without a doubt, the next time I'm cutting up a chicken breast, that's what I'm thinking about. Like that is going to be in my mind, and I resent you for that, Will. There's true resentment in my soul towards you for putting that in my mind. The other part that worries me is the word reminds, not makes me think of or feels like, but the word reminds. Your grandma's got some questions to answer if it reminds her. Reminds mean like, oh, let me go back in my memory to this time that thing happened. You know what I mean? Like,
that's such a grandma thing to say, though. Like, right? That's such a grandma thing to say, in that it's like low key, like what? But said in a way that you're just like, grandma.
Grandma. It's classic grandma thing. They do be saying stuff like that, don't they? Grandmas. They say stuff like that all the time. And Will said, exactly. I was 10. Oh, so that's been living with you, man. He still thinks about that every day. Every time he sees his grandma, he's like, hey, grandma.
Oh, we
Grandma's
all have
asking all the time, like, oh, like any grandkids on the way? Like, just
no,
nope, none coming soon, grandma. No grandkids.
That's hilarious. Okay, we got some other questions here. Oh, those are trade ones.
We got
Vincent
one from-
asking, what should I do with Fournette?
Start him. We can.
Yeah, you got to hold on. If you can get somebody to trade you top value for him, go for it. Or like top, I don't know, maybe top 10 value for Leonard Fournette. I think that would be a good move. Otherwise, I'm just holding him. I think the Bucs will be able to turn it around. I'm not counting the Bucs out this season. They have not looked good so far, but I think they'll be able to put it together.
I mean, and especially with the moves they made yesterday. Oh, no, they didn't make any moves yesterday. Nothing on this team has changed. But I'm with you, JL. They have Tom Brady. They have Chris Godwin. They have Mike Evans. They have a horrible offensive line, but I think they can put it together. I think they can get something going. Bill did want to know, what's the rest of season outlook for Keenan Allen? So Keenan Allen coming back from injury. How are you viewing him rest of the season, John Luke?
I'm viewing him as a back-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. It's still the Chargers offense. They haven't looked as good as they have in this past season. I think all of us came into the season expecting them to be maybe a little closer to Super Bowl contenders than they've been, at least in how they've looked on the field. Keenan Allen's coming back. He'll be the 1A on this team, as he's always been. So I think he's right where he belongs.
Yeah, Keenan Allen, I view him as a back-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 rest of season. He's in a great offense. He is the wide receiver 1. And while Mike Williams is out, it does nothing but help him, right? So I like Keenan Allen rest of the season. If you've still got him on your team, expect your team to get a little bit better with him back in it. Excuse me. One more question from Will before we move on. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, and ask your question.
Will said, will Tony be a league winner? So Kadarius Toney, do you think Kadarius Toney's a league winner?
No, I don't think so. He's on a new team. I think the situation, this wide receiver situation here in Kansas City is going to be a lot of the same, which is a carousel and not super useful for fantasy, not very predictable for fantasy.
Yeah, I'm with you. Guys, coming up, we've got our friend, the trade daddy himself, Alex Korff, a.k.a. Peaked in High School, coming on to help answer all of your trade questions. You got something before we go, Jay? I thought I saw a hand move.
Can we answer one question? There's a question I had queued up and then overlooked it, and I want to make sure we hit it again. Tyson asked, would you start Hines or Julio at flex? That is tough. Hines on a new team in Buffalo. Julio Jones going against LA Rams. Oh, I think I might go with Hines.
I'm rolling out Julio. It's Hines' first week, and this is a wait and see for me. Like, I think he has value. I think they're going to get him started, but go with Julio. Go with Julio and wait and see on Hines how he's going to be used in this offense.
I think that's fair. I want to go Hines, but I think that's fair.
I get it. I was tempted. That question, Tyson, that was a tough one. Guys, Alex Korff coming on very shortly to help you with your trades. And then we've got Ahman Green, former NFL running back, coming on the show a little bit later today as well. This is the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Better Sports Network.
Surely. Kickers never retire, I think. They just continue playing for all eternity. Like, there's only ever been 30 NFL kickers.
Yeah, they're always readily available too, it seems. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they just get called up. They're like, you kicked for us 10 years ago, right? Why don't you
run it back? That's right.
I imagine
Graham
every
Gano.
single kicker that gets the call is on a high school football field somewhere just practicing field goals after hours. Like it's like 9 p.m. and they're out there just the local high school kicking field goals, and the phone rings. They get a call and they're like, yeah, I'm ready. I've been practicing for this.
I have an amazing kicker story if you guys have a second.
I got a couple.
The number one all-time field goal kicker is Adam Vinatieri. The next two guys are Morton and Gary Anderson, right? Gary Anderson was a dude from like South Africa that just played rugby and soccer. He just could absolutely boot the ball, right? They bring him over and he does like a tryout and he's just absolutely crushing the ball. And all these colleges are like, dude, we want you to come kick field goals for us. And he goes, I don't even want to play football. He goes, I want to play soccer. He goes, I want to play soccer. He goes, so if I can come to your school and play soccer, I'll also, in the fall, I'll kick for the football team. And Syracuse was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, you're on the soccer team. Like, come on. And he went to Syracuse to play soccer, but also kick field goals. And then he ended up being a top 3 point scorer in the NFL all the time.
That's ridiculous.
And his answer to recruiters was, I don't want to play football. I'll do it in my spare time.
Yeah. He's like, you got a spot for me in the soccer team. Syracuse is like, yeah, we got a spot for you.
We don't even care about our soccer team.
We don't even care.
We totally have that spot.
Right? They had to like cobble together a soccer team. Like, yeah, this guy's the captain.
Oh my God. It's like Accepted, the movie, but they just like had to throw together a whole fake soccer team.
Somehow they still got Justin Long.
Right, yeah. Like, Adam Sandler's the coach. Dude, imagine they win the national championship. That's a movie, dog. Yeah.
Boom!
Someone call up Disney. Yeah, we just wrote a movie for you, Disney. This has Disney sports movie written all over. I'm borderline crying right here just thinking about this movie right now.
Dude, the story gets even crazier. Like I should have looked it up again, but like it was like a high school coach that went and found him, and then that high school coach ended up being somebody crazy famous that like coached for the Rams.
Stay tuned for sports. Talk about your picks, your fantasy teams, and your sports collectibles on Better Sports Network.
Welcome back in, everyone, and good morning here on the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show on Better Sports Network. Joining us right now, we've got our great friend and the trade daddy himself, Alex Korff, joining the show. For those of you that do not know Alex, get with the program. He is the guru of trades. You can find him on Twitter at peaked_FF. He's a contributor for The Athletic and 4for4 and the creator of the almighty trade charts. All hail Trade Daddy. What's up,
Trade
Alex?
Daddy.
Yum.
Hey guys, can see it. I haven't seen Jail in a little bit. I'm digging it. I like it. It's coming along. It's getting there. It's
Thanks, man.
I didn't think you'd be able to pull it
annoying.
off. Yeah.
Thanks. That means a lot to me.
Look at that. Let's take another sip of your coffee, Alex. Let's see one more sip. Trade Daddy on the mug. He's accepted the moniker and moved forward. Does that mean
we did it?
Does that mean it's officially been approved? It's gone through quality control, and now you are officially Trade Daddy?
It is. I'm going to start offering them as merch. I don't know why anyone would want these because they're like, why would I be that? But there's probably Trade Sons. Is there something there? I don't know.
Maybe that's your audience. Are the trade babies?
Trade baby.
No, we're going to keep workshopping this one. We need Coop back. I miss him. He's definitely the name guy.
My trade children. That sounds like you're the leader of a cult. Yeah, my trade children.
My trade children.
Trade Daddy and his trade children going out there. Alex, we've been getting tons of trade questions today. We've saved them up for you so we can answer a lot of these. For those people that are joining us for the first time, maybe are unfamiliar with your trade charts, do you want to explain to them how these work, how people use them?
Yeah, sure. So, other people have made trade charts. Mine are a little bit different as I'm aggregating expert consensus ranks to seed a model to look at a larger scale or a larger picture than just one expert. Because typically there's just going to be bias, right? Like we all know that JL. But when you aggregate, you can kind of get rid of some of that noise. So that's what I did. I then also break it out by position. That helps understand positional trades a little bit more. And what we're looking for is 1-for-1, running back for a wide receiver for a tight end type positional trades. And then we can still use it for larger trades, 2-for-1s, 3-for-1s, 3-for-2s, but you have to change a little bit how you approach those. But really the goal is to use these as a guideline to look for fair trades or give you just an estimate, an idea of, hey, I have 10 running backs. I need to on the trade value chart. That's where we can get started with these, really.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Guys, I'm going to post a link to the trade value chart that Alex posted on Twitter this morning, the most updated one in the YouTube chat. I'll try to get that over in the BSN chat for you as well, so you can follow along as we're answering some of your questions. But Alex, you want to get right into it? Some of these trades that have been asked?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. B Kings had a trade for us that he wanted us to look at. Half PPR, 3 wide receiver, running back, 1 flex. Should he trade away Fournette plus Stevenson for Nick Chubb? So Leonard Fournette and Ramondre Stevenson to get Nick Chubb in return.
I think this guy is in my Discord because I just answered this exact question.
Ramondre Stevenson, tier 3, 39 trade value points in PPR currently.
Yeah.
This is redraft, right, Simon?
Yes, I assume so. Unless told otherwise, I'm going to assume redraft and PPR. So, guys,
Nick
if it
Chubb.
is not redraft and PPR, let me know.
I'm
Nick
also
Chubb
pretty
is
sure
tier
this is
one.
an 8-team league as well, which changes it a little bit more. Where like because I think I answered this question a minute ago, but it gets really, really different in 8-team leagues versus like a 10 or 12, right? Like when you can have that many running backs on your team that you can do that for Nick Chubb, having that positional advantage there really does help. In that specific format, I would do it, but it really kind of depends on the depth behind him as well, because that is a big overpay for him. But I like Chubb a lot more rest of the season. And I expect Harris to have a little bit more involvement than he's had. I don't know. The way he's been going is completely sustainable long term, and Fournette's trending the wrong direction for sure. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
In an 8-team
Where's
league,
Fournette?
it's all about the studs, right? Like in an 8-team league, you just want the best player. You've got other depth on your lineup, I'm assuming. So go get Nick Chubb. I'm fine with this trade. I like it.
Fournette's down at 36, JL, just under Stevenson.
So put this into context. Stevenson 39, tier 3. Fournette tier 4, 36 points, trade value points, and Nick Chubb is at 63, tier 1.
Yeah, honestly, it might not be enough to get Chubb at that rate because that's not enough of an overpay. That's only 75 to 60. What did you say, 66 or something? Usually, when you're looking at a tier 1, you're probably going to have to overpay by 30 to 50%. I would be not surprised if they wanted more like 90 in value. So I would absolutely send this if you have the depth to do it.
For sure.
Fair. Miranda in here asking, should you trade away Jonathan Taylor? Do I trade away Jonathan Taylor? Jonathan Taylor, tier 3 right now, according to the trade value charts, at 43 points. He dropped 16 points this week. Assuming injury concerns here is causing that. Are you guys trying to get out from under Jonathan Taylor before he falls further, or are you trading for Jonathan Taylor?
Well, I wrote an article for this morning. Be published anytime. Highlighting selling Jonathan Taylor with an asterisk, right? I would sell him if I am a 2-6 team, 3-5, or 1-7, whatever the math works out. Because you likely are, because you're the Jonathan Taylor manager, and he has been terrible because he tweaked his ankle again. He is not going to help you make the playoffs. And right now, you need to get players to help you make the playoffs. Full stop. Like trade him for. Or either for a running back that can help you now, or even depth pieces, running back and wide receiver, depending on what you need. I think he is potentially a move. But also, if I am 7-1, 8-0, and I can send someone or 2 pieces late, I will absolutely go get Jonathan Taylor, hoping he gets healthy, and maybe they figure something out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a ton of sense. Alex, we're having some serious lag issues right now. Having trouble hearing you. So we're gonna hop you off and then see if you can hop back in and see if that'll fix it. Get you right back up here. Hopefully that'll fix those lag issues because Trade Daddy's got all the answers for us. Joe, how do you feel about that trade that you just asked Alex about?
Well, it wasn't a specific trade, just trading away Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
At this point, I think I would just rather have Taylor than most of the guys who are going around him. Aaron Jones or Jonathan Taylor, Simon? Would you rather have rest of the season?
Jonathan Taylor, I think. Jonathan Taylor.
Is that better?
I think so. I think we got you.
Okay. So how much of my answer did you hear? Literally
we
none
got
of it?
we got most of it. It was cutting in and out. But we got the gist of that one for sure. We got another one from B Kings in here. It's like, good morning, FYF. Good morning, B Kings. Half PPR, 3 wide receiver, running back, 1 flex. Trade away Leonard Fournette and Ramondre Stevenson for Nick Chubb.
You got some deja vu here? Yeah, and Alex did it in his Discord as well.
Oh, damn it.
Round 3, baby.
Round 3.
Same answer.
Started
We
off
still would
different.
do it.
Like I saw the gist of the characters, but yeah, we still would do it. Damn it.
I saw Miranda with another question asking if she should trade away Deonta Foreman. So
I thought you were
was
saying
asking about Jonathan Taylor, but
So Deonta Foreman over at tier 7, 16 trade value points, and he's gone up 7 this past week.
I mean, he looked good, right? He actually kind of just passed the eye test. He looked fast. He looked reasonably fast, but he looked powerful like he was. How do you guys feel about him with potentially Hubbard coming back this week, right? Like he could easily be back. He said he would be back, but never trust the players.
Can't trust the players. It's going to limit Deonta Foreman's upside for sure if Chuba Hubbard is back and healthy, but I still think Foreman is the one there. He's the main guy, but I do think it'll split with Chuba Hubbard. I don't think Deonta Foreman is good enough to command a workhorse usage.
No, you probably won't see too many more top 5 running back performances out of Deonta Foreman this year, but I think he's a serviceable starter. I think he's a serviceable starter. I don't like his value is still pretty low on this chart, Alex. Do you think maybe that's just like it hasn't corrected, like it hasn't reacted to the news fast enough to bump him up there? Do you think this is actually where he's valued right now if you're trying to trade him away?
So I think probably the Foreman manager or maybe some people in your league are going to be higher on him than the experts are, but I think they're baking in that Hubbard's probably still going to get 40% of the work if he's back, 35, whatever, and a lot of the passing down work. Hubbard was the starter 2 weeks ago before he got hurt too. I mean, not that means a whole lot because they split pretty evenly, but I expect that's probably about what his value is. I don't think it's an under or overreaction. I think it's probably reasonable.
Yeah. We had another question come in here. This one, not necessarily trade related, but I do think it's value related. And Tyson came in here and asked for an outlook on Patterson coming back for Atlanta rest of season. I'm curious, is Patterson on these charts right now, Alex, or is his value dropped so low being injured that he's not even present?
I think he's on it. I think he's tier 7 or 8.
I see him down there. Yeah, tier 6 in PPR, right at the bottom of tier 6, around Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Khalil Herbert is where he's sitting. Do you think his value goes up as soon as he starts? Do you think this shoots back up, or do you think this is going to take a minute to correct?
I would say the second he starts and is healthy, or even comes off of IR or is activated, right? Like the problem is it was a knee scope, and that timeline is who knows? Like they can vary so much, and he is older. Have we heard anything about him practicing, or he can't practice right until they activate him?
Yep.
But we haven't heard anything because they also don't have to say anything. So he is, if he's active week 9 or week 10, he's going to shoot up, but we don't know that that's going to happen. I think that's kind of what we had to bake in to have his value that low, because I would much rather have him than a lot of these guys, because I think he will be better if he's active, healthy, and playing. Yeah.
So is he a trade target right now? Like, or are you too nervous about the situation to target him in a trade?
If you have an IR spot, I'm pretty okay with targeting him in particular, especially if it frees up the space. But the not really hearing anything, and you got to be a little concerned. He's a little bit on the older side too.
He is a little bit on the older side. What, 9th year breakout? Typical for a running back, right?
Waits a little bit later. Safety, punter, punt returner, whatever he is.
We had another question in here, another trade question. Tyson wanted to know, should I try and move Tony Pollard after that massive game? And he probably still won't be the starter with Zeke there. Jerry Jones is pretty adamant that Zeke is a starter. Are you trying to move Tony Pollard?
Let's see. So he jumped up 6.5 trade value points this week. He's now tier 5, 26.5 above Ezekiel Elliott, which makes sense based off public sentiment. I probably. It's not big enough of an edge, I think, that you'll get a ton of value there. Zeke is still going to be the number one. Jerry Jones said as much in his post. I wouldn't expect Tony Pollard to continue being the main guy when Zeke comes back.
I think if you're trying to trade Tony Pollard, Jerry Jones is your worst enemy. Jerry Jones is your number one worst enemy, because he's just coming out and giving every single person in your league a reason not to trade him at value, right? They're Jerry Jones is coming out and saying no, sorry, fantasy managers, not going to happen. And if you're looking at trading for him, don't do it. So where he is on the chart right now, I honestly don't even think if you offered Tony Pollard straight up for DK Metcalf that's getting accepted. And they're right next to each other on the chart. I think the DK Metcalf manager is going to stay put because of the news coming out of Dallas, even though Tony Pollard just blew up. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah,
I think it's we can't assume rational coaching or rational owners, right? That's something we can't legislate. But we absolutely, Pollard's just a better running back than Zeke right now, for sure. He's just faster. He has explosion that Zeke hasn't had in 2 years, 3 years. I like Pollard, but if you can get value, especially above where you think he is, go for it. I don't know that you will, unless you have some managers in your league who maybe aren't paying as much attention to what Jerry Jones is saying, which is possible, right? Your home leagues are all different. They're probably not everyone's probably as plugged in as the people that are on a live show talking about fantasy football. So maybe you have that chance, right?
Potentially.
Yeah, that's a good point. Billy Mack in here said, I was offered Chubb for Jefferson. My wide receivers are Jefferson, Hopkins, CeeDee Lamb, Juju, Lazard, and Sutton. My running backs are Pierce, Stevenson, Damian Harris, Brian Robinson, and Darrell Henderson. 10-team PPR. Should I get Chubb? I was offered Chubb for Jefferson. Are you guys trading Justin Jefferson for Nick Chubb? They are similarly valued here. 68 for Justin Jefferson, 63 for Nick Chubb, both tier 1 players.
Yeah, at that level, they're the same value, honestly. Like, it just comes down to which do you want, the running back or the wide receiver. It sounds like he had depth at both. They had depth at both positions. I usually lean. I could be totally on board with Jefferson, though, I love Jefferson.
If this, like, truly Philly Mac, the tiebreaker for me here is this a 2 wide receiver or 3 wide receiver league? If this is a 2 wide receiver league, I'm getting Chubb because you've got Hopkins and Lamb as your 2 guys. You're good to go. If this is a 3 wide receiver league and then you're looking at Juju, Lazard, or Sutton, I would much rather have Jefferson, Hopkins, Lamb, and then Pierce and Stevenson as my running backs. Like, I'm comfortable with Damian Pierce and Ramondre Stevenson. So 2 wide receiver league, I'm making this trade. 3 wide receiver league, I'm not. I'm keeping Jefferson.
Looks like 2 in a flex is what Philly Mac said.
I'm doing it. Give me Chubb.
Who was his after Stevenson? Who was his running back?
Damian Harris, Brian Robinson, and Darrell Henderson. So Pierce was the starter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really want to start Brian Robinson or Henderson if one of those other guys goes down. So having a little bit of insulation at your running back. And then also I think Chubb and or Pierce or Stevenson are a great flex. Was it half point PPR? But it doesn't really PPR. I still would probably lean the running back side, but I love running backs. So
yeah, I'm with you. I think you make this trade given your format. If the offer's already there, that makes sense. Maybe shoot up. Maybe try and get a Derrick Henry or something. I don't know.
Working grinding here. Wanted to know who's the best wide receiver you can get for JT 1-for-1. And Alex, it's exactly the position you talked about. They're 3-5. They're 11th out of 12 in points and playoff position. And then they've got Keenan Allen and Sutton as their 1-2 at wide receiver. The Hal's running backs are Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker, Jamaal Williams, AJ Dillon, Isaiah Pacheco, and Rashad White. So looking to trade JT to maybe upgrade that wide receiver position. Alex, looking at these trade charts, who's a wide receiver maybe you're targeting for Jonathan Taylor?
Do you think you can get Devontae Adams for Jonathan Taylor right now?
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's one. Jonathan or Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, Hopkins. But I mean, AJ Brown just had an insane game. Hopkins has just been killer. But maybe they have depth at wide receiver. Those are kind of anything lower than that, like the CeeDee Lamb, maybe Waddle. Waddle's interesting. I would probably do it for Waddle.
I think I'd do it for Waddle if you needed a wide receiver.
I don't think you're getting that done if you're picking any of these guys who just had a big week. So like the DeAndre Hopkins, the AJ Brown, like you mentioned, I wouldn't. Even though they're valued less than Devontae Adams, I think psychology is going to play into this a bit. And Devontae Adams putting up a goose egg, people are going to be much more worried and willing to trade for that than AJ Brown, who just put up 3 touchdowns.
What do you think about Lamb? Would you do it for Lamb?
Yeah. With Dak Prescott back, I will do it for CeeDee Lamb. I like.
I wouldn't trade away Jonathan Taylor right now because I think his value will pop, and so I just think it's probably a better move to hold.
Man, but if you gotta win now, though, like if you need to win and his ankle's hurt, like sometimes you just have to make those moves, right? Yeah, like we're getting to that point of the season, right? Yeah. So maybe they're not quite at that panic point yet at 3-5.
Yeah, it depends what you're like. I would be almost at that point, not looking for necessarily 1-for-1 trade. It didn't sound like they had great running back depth either. I would maybe be looking for right, do 2 tiers, like maybe a wide receiver that you think could pop and a running back that's coming on, something like that, to fill out your lineup a little bit more and inject more variance in it to try and get some wins. But at 3-5, you're maybe not there. At 2-6, that's kind of the move I would probably be looking at doing.
Makes sense. We had a very important question in here, Alex, coming from Jay Felicio. He wanted to know, he said, I've heard a rumor that Alex got Trade Daddy tattooed on the small of his back. Can Alex confirm? So do you have a Trade Daddy tramp stamp now?
We're not allowed to show skin on this, right? We have to switch to the
other
stream.
Watch me. This is a no skin show.
Yeah. It's actually the upper back. Trade Daddy. It's
Upper
big
back.
block letters. Yeah, it's
like a jersey, like it's your name on a jersey. Do you have a number underneath it as well?
No, I don't need it. I would put number 1 if I did, but
there is no other Trade Daddy. Why even need to put a number on there? Thank you for
Trade
confirming.
Daddy number 69.
Thank you for
Oh,
confirming.
yeah, that's better.
Also, Joey in here saying, if we're talking about trading babies, if anyone is in win now mode, he has a 2-year-old that is about to turn 3. Not much value in Dynasty, but at least 2 cute years left in her. So
Very
Joey,
cute years. He is a very adorable 2-year-old.
on the trade block, if anyone's looking, trade children. Alex, it's your specialty. We had a question in here from Lucius. He said, I'm pretty sure if I asked rest of season value, ETN versus Ramondre Stevenson, you guys would fall on the ETN side. So do we all
and
want
the
to
trade value charts do as well. Tier 2 for Travis Etienne, 53.5. Tier 3 for Ramondre Stevenson, 39. And Travis Etienne jumped up 13.5 this week. Ramondre Stevenson jumped up 5.5. He did. Yeah, Etienne's past Kenneth Walker in another tier above Kenneth Walker. Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones.
In PPR, just want to.
This is PPR. You're right. You're right. I am looking at PPR. Yeah. Is it a drastic change? So he goes down to, he still jumped up to tier 2, 9.5 in half PPR.
I think it's closer in half PPR or zero PPR. It gets a lot closer, especially with Ken Walker. But I think some of that's Etienne's not even really catching that many passes, right? Like that's still just like wish
24
casting.
carries. Well, he can because he showed that in college and he was in the beginning of the season. That's how they were using him. And so he's capable of it.
Yeah. But yeah, do you think they're wrong? Would you rather have Stevenson or JT than Etienne?
JT, I would rather have if he was healthy, but he's not healthy. And so, yeah. And his offense is poo-poo. So that's not good.
Just total.
His O-line's been bad. Yeah.
No, I'd rather have Etienne.
So Lucius, following up on that, wanted to know, would you trade Ramondre Stevenson and Pittman to get Etienne? So Ramondre Stevenson plus Michael Pittman for ETN. What do the trade charts say about this one?
So, it's going to say it's an overpay for sure. And I think the upgrade from Stevenson to ETN is probably not that significant, but maybe it is. Do you guys disagree? I just like Stevenson a lot still.
Stevenson still has to deal with Damian Harris there, regardless of what we want to happen. And the positive news, the weird compliments from Bill Belichick on quote unquote Mondre Stevenson. But he's looked fantastic anytime he's been on the field since last season, since his rookie season. He has looked great. So I'm not down on Ramondre Stevenson at all. It's just a matter of there's no one else there for ETN. He's the guy.
No fear of Jamichael Hasty.
No concern for Michael Hasty. And then
or Jamichael.
How do you feel about Pittman with Ellinger or whatever throwing?
I'm concerned. He's tier 5 right now. Dropped down 6 trade value points this week. 29 trade point value. I'm definitely concerned. The offense isn't great. New quarterback. Pittman, I don't think is good enough to transcend that. I think he's limited.
I think it would be a fine trade if you have depth. I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah, I'd be okay making that trade.
Big backs.
You love big backs?
Big backs that can catch, and that's Stevenson, man. He's huge, and he has hands. Like, I love it.
There's a reason we call him the Rhino. Who said the Rhino first, Jale? They came on our show and called him the Rhino. I can't remember.
Oh, it'll come to me.
It'll come to you.
I know it. It's just.
Let's just sit here and watch JL try to think of someone who said the Rhino on our show. This is our next segment. It's called Watch JL Searches Memory Banks. It's one of my favorites.
We have not answered this. PPR, thinking ahead for week 10, QB stream. Mariota versus Carolina, Daniel Jones against Houston, Trevor Lawrence against the Chiefs, or Jared Goff against Chicago. Which of those guys are you starting in week 10?
Give me Daniel Jones. Give me Daniel Jones against Houston. Daniel Jones against Houston is my answer here. I'm tempted by Trevor Lawrence versus the Chiefs, but I think I'm going to roll Daniel Jones out there. That Houston team is bad.
That Houston team is very bad. Mariota against Carolina is interesting. I think I'd go Trevor Lawrence against the Chiefs.
Where are you going, Alex?
I think Trevor Lawrence would be probably my last one.
In a high-scoring game, hopefully.
Yeah, but the Chiefs are not bad on defense, and Trevor Lawrence has made some throws that are bad. decisions.
For sure.
Right?
For sure. Yeah. He definitely is making some bad decisions in his throws, but I don't necessarily think that'll like, I don't see that like him making those couple bad throws this past game being like, okay, next week he's also going to do that again. You know what I mean?
Dale, to your point, I didn't realize this. The Chiefs are giving up the second most points to opposing quarterbacks on a weekly basis through 8 weeks.
Their secondary isn't fantastic.
25.7 points in a 4-point per passing touchdown league to opposing quarterbacks on average so far this year. The only team worse is, I'm so sorry, Tommy, to do this again to you. It's the Raiders. The Raiders are the only team worse than the Chiefs right now in that metric. The Chiefs are great, but just in that one metric, it's pretty bad. I'm still going Daniel Jones, though.
I was interested in Mariota. I didn't hate him last week, and I think it's interesting. But I think any of them have an argument. Goff too. Goff against Chicago is interesting too.
They're going to duct tape DJ Moore's helmet to his head before this next game against the Falcons. Get a new kicker in there as well.
Funny.
It's going to be fresh on their minds, that loss.
Nick in here saying, "Rip Brandin Cooks." Yeah, Brandin Cooks did not get traded yesterday. Remains to be seen what he's going to do, if he's going to play. He didn't show up to practice. We'll see.
What is his value? He is all the way down there in tier 7 now. We're on Adam Thielen, George Pickens, Tyler Boyd, Jerry Jeudy, Allen Lazard, Brandon Ayuk, Courtland Sutton. I think currently I would rather have every single one of those players that I just said out loud over Brandin Cooks. Every single one of them.
So let's go below him. How about Curtis Samuel, Pickens, Mike Williams, Drake London?
Mike Williams for sure.
Without a doubt.
I'd rather have
Curtis Samuel. I'll take him as well. Like, I feel like his volume's pretty safe. You know what I mean? And Brandin Cooks is the opposite of safety right now. Like we don't even know if he's going to play for the Houston Texans. Drake London's the iffy one for me. That's about what the line is. Ooh. I mean, that's basically asking me if I'll take Curtis Samuel again, right? With Rondale Moore?
Yeah.
Same usage.
I think I'd take Moore.
I'd be fine with Moore.
The usage he's been getting has been fantastic. He's hopped up eight trade value points since last week. I think that'll continue.
I mean, that tweet from Brandin Cooks wasn't like, oh, I'm sad and they didn't treat me right. It was like, I've been covering up their lies for far too long. You messed with my career. Know what I mean? Like there was vitriol in that tweet. It wasn't the Cam Akers statement where it was like, things are amicable, but I would like to find a respectful resolution to me not playing on this team anymore. It was these guys.
Brandin Cooks is living in an HBO TV show.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was pure drama and vitriol from Brandin Cooks towards the Houston Texans. I'm nervous that he doesn't play again this year for them. And in that case, all those names we've said below him, like, even if you wouldn't necessarily think of it, like, I'd rather have Rondale Moore than Brandin Cooks not playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the upside with Brandin Cooks? I see Scott Fishing here, like, bringing that point up now. Cooks is consistently a B-level start, getting between 6 and 11 points, which most years is good enough to make him fantasy relevant. But, like, even holding him, that upside is that you have a serviceable wide receiver. Why not grab just a different one in that same range?
Exactly.
Again,
I said it earlier. Exact thinking on it.
Houston is bad as well. Like this is a bad team, and it's bad for the wide receivers and all of the offensive weapons there. It's pretty bad. Alex, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on and answer some questions with us today. Go over the trade charts. Everybody watching, if you are not following our friend Alex on Twitter, go and fix that right now. He is on Twitter at peakedinhs_FF. And right there, you can click on the link to his Patreon where you can get early access to the charts. You get the Excel versions and a live spreadsheet as well. And you also get access to his Discord server that he hinted at earlier. Truly, when I lost all my money, the only subscription I didn't cancel was Alex's Patreon because I love those charts so much. And I mean that. But Alex, thank you so much, my man. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Always enjoy hanging out with you guys.
Have a good rest of your day, my man. Guys, coming up right after this, we've got former NFL running back Ahman Green coming on to talk with us for a little bit. Get pumped. I'm excited. And I hurt my back and shouldn't have done that motion right there.
That was
this is
bad
the
decision.
Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Better Sports Network.
Surely. Kickers never retire, I think. They just continue playing for all eternity. Like, there's only ever been 30 NFL kickers.
They're always readily available, too, it seems. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they just get called up. They're like, you kicked for us 10 years ago, right? Why don't you
run it back? Let's
I imagine
Graham
every
Gano,
single
why don't you pop
kicker
in?
that gets the call is on a high school football field somewhere just practicing field goals after hours. Like it's like 9 p.m. and they're out there just at the local high school kicking field goals, and the phone rings. They get a call and they're like, yeah, I'm ready. I've been practicing for this.
I have an amazing kicker story if you guys have a second.
I got a couple.
The number one all-time field goal kicker is Adam Vinatieri. The next two guys are Morton and Gary Anderson, right? Gary Anderson was a dude from like South Africa that just played rugby and soccer. He just could absolutely boot the ball, right? They bring him over and he does like a tryout and he's just absolutely crushing the ball. And all these colleges are like, dude, we want you to come kick field goals for us. And he goes, I don't even want to play football. He goes, I want to play soccer. He goes, I want to play soccer. He goes, so if I can come to your school and play soccer, I'll also, in the fall, I'll kick for the football team. And Syracuse was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, you're on the soccer team. Like, come on. And he went to Syracuse to play soccer, but also kick field goals. And then he ended up being a top 3 point scorer in the NFL all the time.
That's ridiculous.
And his answer to recruiters was, I don't want to play football. I'll do it in my spare time.
Yeah. He's like, you got a spot for me in the soccer team. Syracuse is like, yeah, we got a spot for you.
We don't even care about our soccer team.
We don't even care.
We can totally have that spot.
Right? They had to like cobble together a soccer team. Like, this guy's the captain.
Oh my God. It's like Accepted, the movie, but they just like had to throw together a whole fake soccer team.
Somehow they still got Justin Long.
Right, yeah. Like Adam Sandler's the coach. And dude, imagine they win the national championship. That's a movie, dog. Yeah.
Boom!
Someone call up Disney. Yeah, we just wrote a movie for you, Disney. This has Disney sports movie written all over. I'm borderline crying right here just thinking about this movie right now.
Dude, the story gets even crazier. Like I should have looked it up again, but like it was like a high school coach that went and found him, and then that high school coach ended up being somebody crazy famous that like coached for the Rams.
Stay tuned for sports. Talk about your picks, your fantasy teams, and your sports collectibles on Better Sports Network.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back into the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network. Joining us right now, we have a very special guest coming on the show. We've got former NFL running back Ahman Green, 4-time Pro Bowl selection, 12 years in the league. And man, Ahman, I'm so excited to talk to you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Man, JL, I can't hear you right now. I'm going to want to hear you, but
I said something really
that
cool.
happens.
Yeah, I said something really cool, but you guys will never know. What's up, Ahman? So glad to have you on here, my friend.
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
Doing well.
It's a crazy weekend of football, crazy NFL season so far. It's been a ton of fun, but completely
crazy.
Unpredictable. It's felt like for me, just over and over again. My expectations are proven wrong week in, week out this year.
Yeah, everything I say since week one has been flipped on top of his head. We're like in Stranger Things right now in the upside down.
We're right in the upside down.
Where things don't seem quite right. It's like, that looks like the Packers, but the record doesn't look like the Packers. Or that looks like Tampa Bay, but that record doesn't look like Tampa Bay. So we're in the
on the other
down.
side.
That's what
that looks like the Giants, but that record doesn't look like the Giants.
Exactly.
Like what the New York teams have a better record than the Tom Brady-led Buccaneers and the Aaron Rodgers-led Packers. It's bizarre. It's bizarre what we're looking at right now.
You would not have called that in August. Not at all.
You would not have.
No, it's been wild for fantasy football. And Ahman, I've been told that you're getting into fantasy football. You're getting into the fantasy sports area. And I wanted to know, like, when you were a player, you were in the league for 12 years. And I'm always curious, what was your perception of fantasy football while you were playing? Like, what were your thoughts about it? Because some of those fantasy managers can get they can get a little nasty out there in the social media world.
Yeah, actually, as a player, I thought it was a form of gambling, so I didn't even touch it. I didn't breathe on it. Okay.
Yeah.
I avoided it like the plague. Like when it was COVID before COVID for me. Like I would like turn the other way and did not even think about it. And then when I retired, I had a friend of mine, a close friend. say, Ahman, you want to jump in our family league? I say, yeah, I'm retired. You know, I could put whatever money down. No big deal now.
You can't stop me now.
Right. And they're like, money? No, you just play. I'm like, oh, I was like, what? You just sign up. He's like, yeah, just sign up, go to ESPN.com, make your account, and boom, boom, boom. I'm like, what? I was like, you telling me I could have been playing all these years?
I could have drafted myself.
Talking trash to friends and family. I'm like, oh man, I missed out with 12 years of not playing fantasy football. You know, but then ever since then, though, I think the worst year I had is not the worst between winning games. It was the worst because I was in 6 different leagues, and I found out that's way too many.
That's way too many.
That's way too many for my plate. So I'm roughly in the neighborhood of 3 to 2 leagues. So right now I'm in 3 leagues, doing pretty good.
I think every fantasy gamer hits that point where they're like, "Oh, I love this," and then they're like, "Oh, too much, too many leagues."
That's what happened to me. Too many leagues.
What's your favorite format now that you've been playing a little bit now? Do you play a dynasty? Is it redraft? Like, what do you mostly spending your time on these days?
I say I do the normal. I haven't done dynasty or redraft, but I would like to. I've had friends that have played in those leagues, so I'm trying to get directed towards that league. I know we plan. I got a friends league where we pay. It's only it's a $60 buy-in, and it helps purchase your championship ring at the end of the season.
Hey, very nice.
Yeah, but I'm not doing good in that league. I'm like, dang, I was like, this is the year. I was like, this is the year I'm doing my draft. I'm like, this is it. And now I'm sitting at 2-6.
I'm telling you,
the upside down.
The home leagues are unwinnable. The more you get into fantasy, the less like you are to win the league against your closest friends. Like that's the number one rule.
Yes.
Like they're just going to beat you. It's a humbling experience every week. And
all day.
Come on, obviously, like you played in the league 12 years. You're plugged into the NFL. Now you're into fantasy watching it. I'm curious, like whenever you're watching the game now, who are your favorite running backs to watch on the field? Like just from like a pure enjoyment perspective, you know what it takes to be an NFL running back. Who are the guys that you watch and you just get that pleasure from watching them play the position?
Wow, these guys got it.
Yep, these guys got it. So the 2 guys that I'm automatically going to watch because I'm right here in the same town as them is AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. You know, I like the fact that they're in the backfield together at the same time. It kind of reminds me of Dorsey and myself back when I got here. And then it goes back further to high school where my best friend from high school, him and I, for 2 years in a row, we both cracked 1,000 yards. I had 1,500. He had 1,200 our junior year. Then the next year, our senior year, I had 1,600 and he had another 1,200. So it's like it could be done. And so then Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and those guys are special together. Saquon is, ever since I saw him at Penn State and then he gets to the Giants, and now he's back in form after the injury from a few years. Respect his game a lot because he does a lot. Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Christian McCaffrey, special, set records this past weekend for doing what he's doing, for now being traded. And I say that he had to be on a level of being a complete professional because getting traded mid-season from a team you got drafted from, and you were like the guy there, and they drafted you, as we know, because of injury.
Right.
He kept it professional. He gave to the other team, and he didn't lose stride. He didn't get a layer of frustration, get a layer of regret or anything from that team. He was like, look, he probably does behind the scenes, but he's hiding it well because he's playing one heck of a football game right now for the 49ers. I say, and then the young guy, I always like to pick a dark horse or maybe a couple here because I say Najee Harris, he's on a tough team right now, a team that's not doing well, but still putting it down. And then the young guy, very super talented. And then I'm trying to find his name. The young guy, he's up in Seattle right now.
Kenneth Walker.
I picked him up too. Like 2 weeks before he started doing his thing, I picked him up because I had an injury. I had an injury of a running back, and I was like, you know what? Let me pick him up. I looked at his stats. I was like, okay, he has some okay yards per carry. It's like over 3. And as a running back, I'm like, that's solid. Over 3 yards per carry is a good thing. And then I put him in. And my rule for my draft, I have rules for my drafting now and wavering pickups. And when I pick up a waiver wire player, I instantly play them. I don't wait a week. I just put them in instantly, regardless of what happens. Because I'm like, if I'm there to pick them up, that means I want them to play. So I'm not gonna mess around. That's me judging me as a GM. Hey, you picked them, you better put them in right now. So I put them in right there, and I kept him in. He's been balling ever since I got him. So
put your money where your mouth is.
Put my money where my mouth is, and I say another guy, Jonathan Taylor. He's struggling a little bit team wise, but overall he's a guy that since he got drafted from Wisconsin, a guy that I watched in college that once he has the blockers in front of him, he's a sprint champion for every reason that why he's out there. So he's outrunning a lot of DBs and linebackers.
You had a Gears of War Lancer behind you?
Was that?
Is that a Gears of War Lancer?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Gears of War 1 was like my main game growing up. That was my joint.
Yeah. I skipped it in your intro, but I was reading that you're currently the head esports coach at Lakeland University as well. So you're involved in that esports scene.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely involved, entrenched in it. I've been at it for 3.5 years coaching at Lakeland, but I have been in the industry for probably double that for like almost 8 years now. And from shoutcasting to competing in tournaments on my own, to behind the scenes, helping with cameras, helping with audio, doing all the setup that a cameraman or sound engineer does, working with a production crew, just getting the education. I'm teaching it now. We have a minor part of the communication course, 280 intro to esports now. So it's something I felt it's just like in football. Thank you. Just like my passion of football, and it's my next passion, and I'm diving headfirst into it.
Man, it's been wild seeing it kind of blow up recently. Like I was unaware of it all that much, but it started picking up in the fantasy sports place. And then one day I showed up at a brewery, and they've got League of Legends playing on the big screen with a packed house there to watch. And I'm like, yo, this is for real. I got to start paying attention. And man, I've had so much fun getting into it, starting to watch. I'm not good enough to play. Like there's nothing going on over there, but it's fun to watch.
And that's okay if you're not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm good enough to coach it, But in some games, I'm decent. I say I can compete at a high level, like Halo, like Madden. But still, when you get there in a match or practice session with a pro gamer, you be like, oh yeah, I know where I stand.
I know
where I stand. All right.
Just looking at if I look at your career as a whole, going from football to all of the things that you're into now with esports, fantasy, with teaching and content, how was that process? Like, how did you go about making that transition, and figuring out what you wanted to do after football? Was it just truly following your passions, or what led to that?
It was basically following my passions. I put out a goal sheet for myself, which I started back in high school because my mom and dad taught me how to set goals. And I knew, football, it's baseball, it's basketball. We can't play. I said only sport you could try to play forever is baseball. I've seen players play to their 50. So there you go. But other sport, it's a young, every sport is a young man's game. So when I got halfway through my career, yeah, exactly. I tore my quad in 2005 and I came back and I finished out, I had another 5 years of playing after that. But at that time, even before that, I was always thinking about what I'm going to do after football. If it was coaching, if it was commentating, if it's whatever falls in my lap. And so I got in the mindset of thinking that way and not having somewhere to go after football. I think that's where a lot of professional athletes, a lot of celebrities that are in that position where they somewhere for a long time. And then that one spot where they're at for 10, 15 years is over. They don't know what their next move is after that sometimes. And it's okay not to know that, but sometimes the percentages are better to know where you're going. And so I knew I wanted to do something where my passion was there, that it didn't matter what time I got in the morning, I would go do it. And so I went on a mission of doing things, fanboying it. So I started to go to San Diego Comic-Con, E3, DreamHack, PAX, because I was like, video games my next passion beyond my family, my kids, my wife. I said, now let me find something in this space. And then going to those things, like I said, I fanboyed it first. I was like, oh my God, this is cool. Oh my God, this is Batman. Oh, this is EA Sports. This is Madden. This is 2K. This is Halo. Whatever. Resident Evil. Oh my God. I did that for about a year, and then going into the next year, me and my wife put together like this pitiful business card. But it was the artwork was suspect, but it had name, it had an email, and a phone number.
Love that.
So I'm like handing it out to people with EA, Ubisoft, Bethesda, Astro. At the time, Lucid Sound, they're a headset company that I work with now. Logitech. And I'm handing out my cards, and when I hand them, they look at the card like, "Wait a minute, you used to play for the Green Bay Packers." Yeah. I'm like, I'm like, there you go. Because I wasn't going in. Right, yeah, same guy. I was like, I'm not going into it expecting them, people to know me. I wasn't in it. I'm not from this world. I wasn't grown in this world. I was grown in the football industry. So I was like, I had to be humble, which I was, which is no problem. So that's why I made the business card. So people were like, okay, he's serious. We could follow up with him if we want something, or we want to work with him on some level. And that's where it basically everything started. And that was around, I'll say probably around 2015 going into 2016 when things really started moving for me in the world, making connections, getting sponsorships, working with businesses like I said, Astro Gaming, Logitech. And then in 2019, I became an investor of a network called ESTV. It's right out of Los Angeles. So esports television. And right now we have probably the largest distribution of esports content out there. It's an app. You could download it on your Samsung or your iPhone. So download, ESTV, go there and have podcasts on there. My podcast is on there, Ahman Green's Gamers Lounge, and then other podcasts, but other shows that is all revolving around esports, from the casual sense to the pro level of what of content that you can find out there.
Oh, that's awesome.
That humility I feel like is a little bit rare. Whenever you're coming from this, like you're coming from, you hold 4-time Pro Bowl. You hold the franchise record for the Packers of rushing yards, and it looks untouchable right now with the players that are currently sitting there. Like there's a lot of work to be done by these active players. But you come in and you just say, "Here I am. I'm ready to start at ground zero. And let's work and build back up. I want to build my own." That's
entrepreneur mindset right there.
Freaking love it, man.
Exactly.
Entrepreneur mindset.
And that was my mindset, because as a gamer, that's who we are. We get a game and we start from zero.
Right. You don't know the sticks. You don't know how to work the sticks. Then once you learn it, then you start messing a little bit and you kind of suck. And then you start to get better and better every day.
Exactly. So that was my mindset going into it. And now not only do I have great contacts, I got a lot of great friends out there that work for these companies. So that's just a bonus layer added on top of it. So I don't have to just call them up to say, "Hey, what's the next activation?" I'm gonna say, "Hey man, how you doing? How's the wife and kids? How's the dog doing? How's life? How are you doing?" And then we get to the business talk later on. That's the part I enjoy.
You hear that, moms out there? Stopping your kids from playing video games. Video games teach humility. They teach
right
you
now it does.
Now it does.
Now
you hear that?
20, 30 years ago, it had that little stigma about it, but now it's definitely changed. I remember back, I had a gym here in a training facility here, and I closed it in 2018, but probably around 2016, I remember talking to a mom, and she said, she had 3 boys. He came into the facility. She said, I want to be the next Miss JJ Watt. That's what she said to me. And all that went through my head was, okay. And I'm looking at 9. I'm looking at 11, 9, and 6. And I'm like, these are little guys, man. They probably don't even know how to tie their shoe yet. I know at least one of them may not. I'm like, well, just slow down. They gotta
slow down.
Let's learn the fundamentals and get them to see if they even like football or like baseball or like working out. They may not like working out, and they did though. But it was just that conversation now changes to where I say, no, it's okay to let them play Fortnite for a couple hours. Then they got to go outside and play. 2 hours the limit. Then make them go do some, or you can send them to me. After about 2 hours of Fortnite, go from there. So that conversation has changed over the years.
Man, I love that. I love that story. That's hilarious. Mom coming in and then former pro NFL running back saying, like, let them play Fortnite. Like, come on, they're kids. We don't even know if they like this yet.
Right, exactly.
Ahman, we got some people in the chat excited that you're here. Better Boss over here saying, thanks for all the fantasy football championships you won for us back in the day. Ahman equals stud. And we had a question from our friend Tommy. Tommy wanted to know, who did you play against and admire? Was there like an opposing player that you played against that you looked up to or admired in the NFL when you were playing?
I would say more respected, because I respected my peers, because I knew what we were going through on a day in and day out, offense to defensive players. I respected a guy by the name of Derrick Brooks, linebacker, Hall of Fame linebacker for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched him since I was in high school, when he was at Florida State, and I just knew, I was like, he's a player. He runs the field. He has range. He's smart. He's the reason why we have a Tampa 2 defense right now, because he was a linebacker that had range. He could cover area, and then not only he could cover the pass game, he could stop the run. He was thick, he could come and thump. He was a thumper. And then another guy, a couple guys down in Chicago that we faced twice a year was Lance Briggs and Brian Urlacher. I say those guys I respected a whole lot. It was because, we were basically having business meetings in the A and B gap, from time to time on the football field.
In the A and B
gap. Yeah. We're having business meetings, man. We're making things happen. We're moving things. We're moving each other. I remember one time, Brian, I didn't realize that I guess I got him good, and he helps me off the ground. He said, "Dude, you just knocked the snot bubbles out of me." I'm like, "Oh."
You're welcome.
I like this dude. I like this. I was like, man, get, all right, good tackle. Boom. Let's go. So he kept it, we were just competing out there. So guys like that, I respected because, it was like, it was football, but you know what? It felt like more like you were playing the local high school team, or you're playing in your neighborhood, because you got to know these guys, and it's different from when you're obviously as a fan sitting in the stands or as a commentator in the booth, where you really don't get that interaction that we got, face to face on a football field. So those are a few guys, but it was a lot more guys. I could go down a list of guys that I respected and admire in the NFL, but those three guys jump off the top of my head.
So to follow up on that the point about y'all talking down on the field of the planes, I feel like the public, the non-players, like, are fascinated by this, right? We see these like mic'd up segments all the time that are super popular.
Yeah.
We saw Stephon Diggs and Jair Alexander just going at it, chirping the whole game.
Yep, I saw that. It was interesting. I was like, oh man, see, like me, that type of stuff would get me hype. I say, you don't want to get in my face before or during or after the game's over, but before or during the game, that was the time. If you're on an opposing team and you want to start trash talking me, it's go time. I'm like, because it doesn't deactivate me to like get me off my game. It actually makes me more focused.
Right now, I'm like, beat you.
Now, okay, you thought I was just going to run around and just hit everybody. Now I'm about to be a heat-seeking missile looking for you, number 14, number 23. I'm about to find you. And that happened to two players in my career. That happened to two players. One was my old college teammate, Mike Brown, who played at Nebraska with me. He was a sophomore when I was a junior. He was in pregame. We played him his first year in Chicago. And he's looking, he's at me. Ahman, we're gonna sack Brett 6 times. You're gonna have 4 fumbles. We're gonna beat y'all down. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, Mike, you remember we went to school together,
bro.
You should know you don't piss the Hawk off before kickoff. And I said, okay. I said, it's on and popping. I said, let's make it happen. And destroyed him. And then
bring it, Mike.
And then fast forward.
No one's heard from Mike since.
Right. Oh man. And then I think it might have been the same season. It was 2001 season. Unfortunately, it was right after 9/11. It was the first games back to football.
Yes.
We played at that time. Right now changed the name. They're Washington Commanders now.
Yeah.
We played them in Monday Night Football, Lambeau Field, and we're already in the game. We're up big. We're going to win this game. And it was about third quarter, and I had a play where my fullback Will Henderson went the wrong way. So I'm like, they're just trying to not get tackled in the line behind the line of scrimmage, trying to hold on to the ball. So I'm stiff forming, and I threw a stiff form kind of late, and I caught the safety for the Commanders, David Terrell, in the jaw. And of course he's you MFer, you beep. He's dropping on these F-bombs and BITC. I'm like the B words and everything. I'm like, oh. I said I was sorry. I said it was an accident, but it's like that now. Oh,
you want the Hawk?
You thought that stiff arm was bad. Just wait till you see what I got coming your way.
I got in the huddle. I said, Brett, I don't care what coach calls right now. Give me the ball right now. It is.
The play.
And he just looked at me like, he heard the play call. And he's like, I better. All right, 66 handoff solid. I said, thank you. I said, give me the ball. So I got the ball, and I must have blacked out because all I remember is I found 31. And I walked through him like a wet paper bag, and even to put the bowl on the cake, or to put the icing on the cake. The next day, watching game film, breaking it down, my coach right before the play started, he paused it. He said, "Boom." He said, "AG, I want to ask you something." It's Sylvester Cruz. He said, "So, what happened? The play before this play?" I'm like, "What you mean, coach?" I'm like, he's like, "Something must have happened because." You missed the
fast play.
Yeah, you missed you could have had a 60-yard touchdown run on this play. Just saying. He's like, you did pick up the first down, which was good, but you could have had a 60-yard touchdown. And I'm like, oh. He said, yeah, this is what I mean. So he hits play, and I watch it, and it's him. Like, he sees me get the ball, and I literally seek out number 31. Boom. And where I could have ran around him I could outran him to the end zone. I actually run him over for like a 15-yard game.
That is hilarious.
My God.
I was like, yeah, he kind of pissed me off to play before coach.
You know what I'm doing after this? I'm
running
going back and
backwards.
I'm trying to find footage of that game. Like you
Yes,
laid out the date
please
for us
do.
because I want to watch those plays now, knowing what happened, like
That was
knowing
the
what was
mindset.
going on. I got to rewatch that.
Yeah, it was funny.
That's hilarious.
Interesting.
And I feel like we just kind of brushed over the fact that you said you knocked the snot bubbles out of Brian Urlacher. Like
That's
that
what he said
is-
to me.
Yo,
He
that
said that
is
to me.
wild to get. Like, there's probably 3 people in the whole world that can say that. Like, that's a tough
Right.
dude.
Well, I'm one of them.
Oh my God, that's absolutely incredible.
Oh man.
I feel like we've seen a lot of running back trades the last week or two in the
Oh,
NFL
yeah.
here. We got Chase Edmonds going, leaving Miami,
Mhm.
going to Denver. We got CMC now in San Francisco. How difficult is it for the running back a running back going onto a new team to be effective now, to have an impact immediately? Is it something where
Wow.
it takes a little while to get up to speed, or is it something that like teams typically are like, look, we're just going to simplify this. Like, let's get you involved.
I say for the running back position in general, it doesn't take too long. I remember when I got traded, even though I got traded in the off season and then had training camp to adapt, these guys are getting traded mid-season. So I think that's even a tougher curve. But the running back position overall, like most of our plays are universal, no matter the offense. Even now with the RPOs and all that stuff out of shotgun and pistol, things are universal. There's outside zone footwork, there's inside zone footwork, and then it's usually just a counter toss, power or a power toss play. So just knowing your footwork and knowing your blocking assignments of your linemen, other than if a coach or offensive scheme has different ideas, like a zone blocking scheme to what they do out of the shotgun, maybe change that. Just pay attention to that. But if you have great athletes like the two that you mentioned, they're phenomenal athletes. It's not going to take much for them. I'm pretty sure Kyle Shanahan is like, oh, you know what? Here's the play, and Christian's like, yeah, I got it, coach. You know,
Yeah.
that's all. When the coach hears that from a player, trust me, that coach sleeps a lot better at night. I've had my coaches through the time when they give me some new stuff during game week, and they're like, AG, can you let me tell this to you? I'm gonna write it on the board, or I'm gonna tell you this before practice, and I'm like, oh yeah, I used to run that play back in high school. And they're like, thank you. I'm like,
yes,
yeah. They're like, yes. I'm like, yeah, I got you, coach. Don't worry about it. They're like, whew. They're like, man, okay. I just got to coach the rest of the guys. So, yeah. So when you get players like that, then it's I say a lot easier on the coaches than it is the actual player.
Right.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
Ahman, my man, this has been an absolute treat getting to talk with you today. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and hang out with us.
Oh man, no, I had a good time too, guys. It was fun. Finally, another fantasy talk and football, and now a little bit of video game from you, Simon and John. So no, I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Big thanks to Ahman Green. And guys, check out what Ahman's doing with esports now. Ahman, if they're looking for you, where would you want people to come find you in your work that you're doing right now?
Yeah, man. Well, for Lakeland, it's lakelandmuskies.com, and then you can check out that's the sports website for the university. So you can check out all the sports, and we're in there right under, I think, between baseball and volleyball, somewhere in there. And it's men, it's co-ed, so it's men's and it's ladies and boys too, or guys. And then Ahman Green 30 is on my Twitter and Instagram. And then for my podcast, I do the gaming one, like I mentioned, Ahman Green's Gamers Lounge. But then I do 2 football podcasts. I do one with all 3 with my teammates. So 2 with my teammates. Mike Wall, who was our guard in Green Bay for a long time. That's on my block. We recorded that yesterday on Monday, actually, so 2 days ago. And then tomorrow morning, I record one with Gilbert Brown and Dorsey Levins, and that one's called Green and Gold G Lounge. So the first one is called On My Block. The second one is called Green and Gold G Lounge, and been doing it for probably about this season so far. On My Block, we've been doing it for a season and a half now, so it's going into our second year. It's going really good. So that's where you can find me on TikTok too, with the Gamers Lounge, or Ahman Green Gamers Lounge on TikTok as well. So I'm doing, like you said, a lot. Like you said, I'm doing a lot of things here. Kind of like in football, I was a running back. I caught the ball at the backfield. I picked up the blitz and occasionally had to throw a touchdown.
Ahman, I hate to cut you off. We're running out of time right here at the end, but really appreciate you coming on, my man, and best of luck in everything going forward. I'm going to find that play right after this, but thank you so much, my man. Guys, that is going to be it for us this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back live tomorrow morning from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern time for more Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. Until then, adios, everyone.
Bye-bye.